You look like a dream, but your skin's so thin.
Doctrine bolts upright at 2:47 a.m. Sheets clinging like a bad Tinder date gone wrong. Sweat pouring off him in rivers. Behold the world's saddest perimenopausal cheerleader. Pom-poms long retired, replaced by damp Kleenex Watts. He fans himself with a dog-eared Batman comic, gasping, holy hot flash Batman, this cape is killing me. Oh, Dr. John, the wine machine. 60 going on 16, forever stuck in between. Mood swings wilder than the Joker on a joyride, tears flowing faster than his Lauren's goodbye to court. He whimpers like a golden retriever in therapy. I'm the Dark Knight of night sweats, but nobody buys it. 5 years old, they yeeted him down I-95 like a human bowling ball with terrible form. Strike, spare, gutter snipe, asphalt gave him the world's worst exfoliation. Left him tumbling, screaming, "Mommy, my cape." From that day on, life's been one long pathetic roll, straight into the emotional back gutter. He built his bat cave in the guest bedroom closet, utility belt, just a fanny pack full of my middle knockoffs and crumpled rejection letters from online dating. Dark night, more like damp night, he mutters, dabbing his forehead with a Batman branded towel, while Lauren snores peacefully in the next zip code. Signal in hell's traffic, he tries sexy growls, gets interrupted by hot flashes, ends up looking like a steamed lobster in footy pajamas. Lauren's response, "Honey, take your hormones and go." Now she locks the door with a cartoonish click, "No Batmobile escape for you." He paces the kitchen at dawn, munching antacids like bat-shaped Skittles, whining to the cat, "Why won't women love a sensitive soul?" Just licks its butt, ultimate power move, Dr. John's life motto. I'm the night sweats, cape dragging on the linoleum, dignity long gone, bat gone. He tries to brood dramatically by the window, but ends up fanning himself with yesterday's newspaper, muttering, "I'm vengeance, I'm the night, I'm menopause." Lauren yells from upstairs, "You're the wine, John! Now shut up!" Bridge. Roll on, you tragic bowling ball of a man. Through decades of not tonight, I have a headache, and Batman doesn't cry. Okay, maybe just a little. No bat signal, just the glow of the fridge light illuminating another midnight snack of regret, and one more tear-soaked pillowcase, bat-soaked, final course.
Okay, everybody, if you guys can hear me, can you put a 1 in the chat? And the reason that I'm asking you to do that is because I am on a different, I've got a different microphone. And, you know, I don't really know how it all fits together yet. So it sounds great to me, but I don't know if it's going to sound great to you. So if it sounds good, if the volume is good, if everything, you know, if it's normal, then I want to take these headphones off. Okay, so everybody is good, loud and clear. Good. Yeah, I've got my real microphone. Well, you can't see it because where it's at. I got my real microphone. Yeah. So I'm very excited. I think it sounds good. I want to play with the settings just a little bit more. I don't like having it up close, right in my face. It makes me feel kind of claustrophobic. So I really enjoy it more when I'm just talking to you guys like we're in the same room together. Friends sitting around having lunch together, right? So, um, and I like my the arm. You probably can't see it. I put it all together. Let me tell you this. You see the arm on it? You can't really tell, but it's very cool. The arm for it is LED. Of course, I like anything that is bright and shiny or very, very colorful. So it's very cute, and I'm going to get it set up in. I'm in transition with. I have like a studio, but it's not ready yet, and this is going to go in there. But what I did is I got it at Christmas. Well, I got the arm for my birthday from my son, and then at Christmas, I got the good microphone, and it's going to be in a normal regular studio, but I just wanted to kind of put it together and see what it sounds like. And personally, it sounds like you're in the bathroom. It's not supposed to, you have a tiny echo. It's not supposed to sound like I'm in a bathroom. It's supposed to be a bit darker, but I don't like it right at my face because I have a real problem with sibilance. If Woodman probably knows what sibilance is. So what does that sound like, Woodman? Is that better with it closer? Hopefully. I think it sounds good. Thank you, Cat Lady. So thank you, Sigma. Appreciate that, but I can hear every word. Okay, Woodman. I'm not hearing any echo. Thank you, Speech Bubble Busted. Okay, so you just heard one of the new songs of Dr. John, and it is based on his life story that was read to us so eloquently by Jolene Lunzer. And with the drama of like being launched down the freeway, like his mom's driving and he comes out of the car and slides down the highway, and he's Batman, and he, the sweating problem. So that's that song. The song was a teeny bit cruel. You know what, Woodman? I don't disagree. And I actually, so I think I'm going to go back and change some of it. In no way is it meant to be hurtful, but it could be. There's a couple of things in there that could be, and I agree. But it does reflect truth. Like it reflects his own words, like what he described. Do y'all know the autobiography of Dr. John that Jolene Lunzer read on her channel? It's the song is a direct reflection of everything that he wrote himself on his website. If you know what I'm talking about, put a 1. Hey, Blue Jay, so good to see you. Yes, and the only 18-wheeler with a muffler hit him. Annie, it was a horrible story. All of it, Woodman. He slid down the highway, and then an 18-wheeler drives over the top of him and takes out. Whoops, sorry about that. I hope it wasn't loud. Takes out his shoulder. And that he's got these sweats. He's at school or church or something. And the teacher is like, I know, Andy. and then he talks about how sweaty he is, right? He talks about how sweaty he is, and that he goes in front of the teacher, and the teacher thought that he jumped into a pond or a river or something. So is it really cruel? These are his own words, Woodman. I listened to it. I kept redoing it, right? I would listen to it and I would think, well, I like it. Like I like the tune, the voice is beautiful, all of that. And then there were those parts and I thought, oh, I don't know if I want to say that, but it is true. It is true according to John's words, right? So I don't know. Here's what I think is so interesting. Willow Road isn't a highway. It's close to a highway, but it's just a busy Chicago area street. Yes, cat lady. So I did not fact check Dr. John's story. I just took it at its melodramatic word. Okay. And if he took some artistic liberties to make his story more interesting, then I'm only too happy to play along with his melodrama, right? And Diane, I totally agree. The diamond of this channel. Yeah, I think that, look, there's something I can't get past. Okay, and for people who feel like this is cruel, okay, please hear me. This man wanted to invent a crime that wasn't real. And he asked law enforcement to help him invent a crime that wasn't real. And they were so calculated that they had said to the officer several times, like 3 times, can you just give us something with a sign, with a signature? I think we need a case opened. That was something that they said. And the cop said, I can't open a case. There's no case. There's no broken law. Right? So please hear me. If you feel like this is a little cruel, please hear me. This is a man who went through 7 years of education. 2 of those years included advanced ethics. And you are going to choose sending an innocent woman to prison for up to 50 years, John Matthias? Well, trust me, Johnny boy, my little stupid songs in no way are as cruel as what you have done to Christina and Stephanie and all of them, all of these women that your wife exploited. And when they had enough, then it was time for you to invent to manipulate a law enforcement officer, invent crimes, and send her to jail for 50 years. For what, John Matthias? So I'm sorry, okay? I don't mean it to be cruel. I mean it, I want it to be, I want my songs to be reflective of their actual behavior, to actually show how ridiculous they're being, the dramatic crap, targeting and hurting other people, acting like children, being unethical, but to present it in a way that is sort of lighthearted, right? So focusing, what they did to Creswell was absolutely unforgivable. To take Colby and prance him all around their damn channel, making money off this young man's, I don't even have a word for it. I mean, we could call it nightmare, but that, I don't feel like that's a strong enough word. And then to share his private text online. And what would be the point of that exactly? Why would they need to read Colby's private messages to them? You know why. Money, 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 money. That's why. Because they show, look, Colby likes us. Colby trusts us. Colby wants to be our friend, and you should too. So trust in us. Believe in us. Colby gave us the stamp of approval. Kay Woodcock gave us a stamp of approval. Larry gave us a stamp of approval. Yeah, but we don't like Crusha. So we just try not to bring her around. Yeah, I get it that these are not kind words. I get that. But they are John Matthias's words. Right? So please be understanding. And I'm about 10 minutes behind, but catching up. Dr. Vonda, yay! Dr. Vonda's with us. Yay, good. Okay. They want to make themselves appear important and looped in with families. You are correct. It is all about the money. It 100% money, and they are manipulative as hell. Now, Lauren calls herself an investigative reporter, right? Oh, by the way, Lauren, I'm not done with you, sister. You wanted to put Christina in jail. You went after this lady with a vengeance. Any negative bad thing that happened, you threw it in one bucket. And that bucket was the Christina bucket. She was the one that you were going to nail to the cross. Now, there were many people that wanted your head on a platter. By the way, Lauren, someone who says they want your head on a platter, they don't mean that literally. And you know that. You've said enough gross, disgusting crap yourself to understand that people speaking freely, sometimes they express their emotions through words. And I think Gigi's choice of words was absolutely accurate and non-problematic. I myself would like your head on a platter, and that doesn't mean any violence or anything like that. It's a figure of speech to reflect frustration. And I think what you did to Christina, trying to nail her legally with crimes that she never committed, never. I think you're gross. I don't look at you as an investigative reporter. That's what you call yourself. You run around out. I mean, I do call you a funeral tourist. There's evidence that you are a funeral tourist. You literally ran to a funeral home, a church that was doing a funeral, and you took your camera and zoomed in looking for bodies of a mass. I think it was a knifing. I don't think it was a shooting. And they had not caught the perpetrators. And you're walking around all by yourself. You're just walking around all by yourself, middle of the night, probably drunker than Cooter Brown. That's, allegedly my opinion. But where was your fear, Lauren? Where was the fear doing that? Look, girl, you're either afraid of a killer, a mass murderer, or you're afraid of a young woman with a YouTube channel, or I'm sorry, a TikTok channel that had 100 subscribers, Lauren. You're full of it, sweetie. Here's another reality. So I listened to your 9-hour live and I felt bad for you. And you know who else listened? Kresha. Kresha was in the side chat during your 9-hour live. And the reason I know that is because Kresha and I spoke back and forth. I saw her commenting. She was being supportive of you. And then everybody started seeing the body cam. That's where the truth came out. Then we listened to the court case. That's where the truth came out. We went over to Hella Excited Utterances and we watched comments made by Lauren Matthias in a public platform. That's where the truth came out, Lauren. You lied for 9 hours. You lied and you manipulated your subscribers. John, there's loads of evidence that John, too, lied to your subscribers. You said, thanks to the investigators and the reporting here at Hidden True Crime, we now know the truth about Dr. McKee as a murderer. No, you didn't do a damn thing. What do you mean that thanks to the police officers and Hidden True Crime reporting? Shut up. Shut up. It is so bad what you guys are doing. I think, and I still have that little bit of like congestion, so I apologize for that. This video I'm getting from Everyday with Jay, or J is for Justice, right? I'm getting it from Everyday with Jay. This is incredible. I don't know why. Hey, Debbie, great, glad you're here. Hey, Jenny. I don't know why they're getting worse and not better. I don't understand why John Matthias seems impervious to threats against his license. I don't get that part. Excuse, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Sorry about that. Not only did she lie for 9 hours, she took money for 9 hours. Money that was made from the lives of 4 people that were killed, slaughtered by crazy people. And she doesn't seem to recognize that, right? She says, look, I think these people are so deep in delusion that they just can't see they can't see themselves, the reality of what they're doing. Lauren prides herself, I think. Oh, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, Zelda's having a terrible time too, for sure. We are the border of the ice snow mix, so I don't know yet. Just me, I'm so glad to be on the coast. I'm really hoping that we don't get any of that ice. I'm hoping it does not turn into 2021. But everybody up north, you need to have your bread, you need to have your milk, and never forget the extra toilet paper. Okay, that's what you have to have in an ice storm if you live in the South. I don't know why, but something about the bread and the milk, it makes the ice go away, I think. So go do it. Don't wait. I've been watching this storm over the week, and it just is escalating. You know what I mean? So don't take chances. We learned our lesson in 2021. I have like my snow gear, like my ski clothes. We have our ski wear, under our long underwear. So if it does freeze again and we're stuck here, we're just going to suit up and we're going to look like, the abominable snowman, but we'll be warm. So make sure that you got plenty of blankets. Make sure you've got a way to like charge your phone and your computer, and just be really careful. Food that you can eat without it having to be cooked or heat up. So I guess that's where the bread and milk comes into it. But we have pretty good snowfall currently in Michigan. Oh, Michigan gets so much snow, DD. I'm a snow girl. Okay. Now I do live on the coast and I love the ocean, but I love the snow. So it has now started snowing a lot in Colorado. My daughter lives in Colorado. And so I'll be spending a lot of time up there because I love it. Love. So I'm happy for you, DD. Some people that live up there, they get really weary of all that lake effects snow. But it is beautiful. It is really beautiful. You put bread and milk outside. Very true. Diet Cokes can be put out in the ice. That's right. Yep. Oh, that's so great, Dee Dee. That is so great. You should take lots of pictures. I love the giant snowflakes. Love it. Okay, so yes, I'm very irritated, and I think that I don't see these two pulling back from their MO, right? I heard Jay say something about that this whole debacle, getting to know Kresha, listening to all these hidden true crime things, seeing the texting that's happening. The woman who presents on channel is not the same woman in the chats and in the friendships. She presents herself as so concerned, but it's all polished, right? It's all polished, it's all contrived. He's so melodramatic and gross. And they're deep in this delusion. They think themselves to be a certain way. They present themselves, and unfortunately, people that have certain proclivities are attracted to that they look at John and Lauren and they say, oh, they're so wise and they're so much smarter than I am, and I can learn so much from them. And the reality is, you're about to see, they are not so wise. They are not so ethical and moral. They are not as smart as you and me. They are unprincipled. They play like fast and loose with morality and ethics. And John Matthias seems to be completely just unaware at the real danger that he's putting his license in. To get our licenses to practice, here's what that means, okay? When I have a state that gives me a license and says, okay, you can practice psychology, you can provide services to people with no oversight. I don't like, if you work at a hospital, you're going to have a licensed psychologist that's watching over you, maybe a psychiatrist. Before reports go out, there has to be that second signature. Your supervising psychologist has to sign off on the work. When you get that license, that state is saying to all the people that would like a therapist, they're saying to the state, listen, we've dug into this person's background. We've looked at every class they have ever taken and the grades they received. We've read their research, their dissertation publications. We've looked at all that. We have spoken to colleagues that have worked with them. We have followed them for 3,000 hours of supervised work. This is someone who psychologically is stable, who knows the content that they're supposed to know to be a good psychologist, that they're stable and balanced, and they're not going to be weird and do bad things with their knowledge. This is someone that is going to uphold the profession of psychology. And we, the state, have so much confidence in this person, we're willing to sign off and say, we've checked them. They've been measured, weighed, and found perfect. That's what that license says. So then they give you your license, and at that point, you can now supervise other psychologists that are not as far along in their career as you are. You can supervise them. You can open up your own private practice. Nobody is there to look over your shoulder and make sure you're not making mistakes, because you've had literal years of proving yourself. Years, y'all. So then you get this license, and that's golden. If you have a license, you see somebody and you file Blue Cross Blue Shield, all Aetna, all the insurance companies, and you're basically being paid by insurance companies, except for copays or whatever. If you don't have that license, you don't get to do that. If you don't have that license, the insurance companies aren't going to do that. So I can't understand why he's not protecting the license. Like, you protect your license at all costs. It's golden. It's your career. It's the thing that said, it's the golden stamp of approval. And it gets you can get placements at hospitals. You get contracts working with other big companies or small companies. The courts will hire you. You can testify. You can work at the VA. Like, it is your ticket, people. It's like your driver's license, right? So I don't understand why he seems oblivious to the problems that he's creating. Money and physical looks are status to LDS. The pressure is intense to the point, Sketty Nona, that plastic surgery for teenagers is not unheard of. The response that he gave on their most recent double homicide in Ohio made me sick. Thank you, Google. Yes, it was incredible. There is something wrong. Yeah. I think I saw his license is due in, it expires, I think, December 31st, 2026. So this year, he's got one more year on it. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't care anymore. Maybe they're making so much money with this foolishness on their channel that he thinks, I don't need this anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't. The parts of John's stories that are legit, we don't have to praise it, but we have to accept it. True. He has a PhD in education, counseling, psychology, and he is licensed. And he is not a Princeton psychologist. John, the licensing board will be furious with you for making a claim that you're a Princeton psychologist. In no way at all are you a Princeton psychologist. You got a degree from Princeton, but it wasn't the degree with the terminal degree. You did not get your PhD from Princeton. And that term psychologist, that comes from your training in counseling psychology. So what are you doing? Why are you boldly lying to the world that the licensing board can check so easily? Go to your channel. There it is. Princeton psychologist breaks down Dr. McKee, analyzes Dr. McKee. I'm very confused what you're doing. He kept talking about holding on to anger, and I just thought, like, you're about getting cut off 5 years ago. He has mental issues. I read that inside chat. I'm not saying that John Matthias has mental issues. I read what somebody else wrote. I apologize for that. I should have edited myself. He kept holding on to anger. Yeah. Do you remember Speech Bubble? Do you remember that creepy thing that he was saying? That revenge was like a drug. That revenge was like being addicted to heroin. What? John? I don't know, buddy. You may want to walk that plane back. But it is very interesting that might have been some leakage, as Jay, as for Justice says. Was that leakage, John? Yes, you read an article, but the only thing you took out of the article was that people that get hell-bent on revenge, they can become obsessed with it like it's a drug. But no, I promise you, John, I'm going to make a statement as a psychologist. Here we go. I usually don't do this. I usually try to stay far away from, my job as a psychologist, but I need to do this for my colleague, Dr. John Matthias. Here's Dr. Jules. Okay. John, if you're addicted to heroin and you don't get your medication, you don't get the molecules that have to fill up those particular opiate receptors, what happens to you? Yeah, you think you're dying by vomiting and diarrhea. A week of acute illness gastrointestinal upset that is off the uncontrollable, John. You ever worked at a detox facility? It's incredible. It's unreal. There are more janitors than there are nurses because it's bad. The throwing up, all that. It's bad, uncontrollable. Along with the violent gastrointestinal upset is also issues related to heart and blood pressure, because the brain is so activated and agitated without the soothing effects of the opiates. And this lasts for a week. And so these people need treatment, John. They need blood pressure medication to keep their blood pressure down so they don't have stroke, John. We don't want them to have a heart attack if they have a weak heart, if they've got some issues with their heart and they go through opiate withdrawal cold turkey. Horrible things can happen. You said that revenge is worse than a drug, than being addicted to heroin. Are you saying, John, that your need for vengeance when someone crosses your path, like Lori Hellis did, are you saying that if you don't get revenge on Lori Hellis or revenge on Christina or revenge on Kresha, are you saying that you're going to suddenly start having diarrhea all over the homestead, hidden homestead? Are you going to be vomiting all over your pretty new sofa? Are you going to be in danger of heart attack and stroke because of the level of agitation that you're in? No, you're not. Don't be silly. It's stupid. It's stupid. You say these things to 300,000 people, and you don't seem to have any awareness that there are people out there that might confuse them in a really bad way, John. So there's a lot of bad decisions that are being made that are very worrisome, not because of John and Lauren. I don't care about John and Lauren. That they live their best life, do whatever they want to do. I don't care. It's none of my business. Oh, I care very much, though, the damage that he's doing to the profession of psychology and the image that he's presenting to the world for what a psychologist does or is or how they do their jobs. When I listen, this is the truth. When I listen to him analyzing, right? Oh, Princeton psychologist analyzes Dr. McKee, right? I go listen to that. I don't see any analysis. I just see just baffle them with bullshit. That's the name of the game, isn't it, John? You say, here's my credentials. I'm a psychologist. You lie and say you're a Princeton psychologist. You are not. You don't teach there. You don't work there. And you didn't graduate from there. So exactly, how are you a Princeton psychologist? No, you're not. So you put those credentials out there, and that misleads people. People think you have instant credibility because they're looking at the profession as a whole. They're looking at the fact that the state has given you a license to practice. And if the state gives you the seal of approval, then you must be an okay guy. And then you go on and do things that leave my jaw gaping open. The writings that have been uncovered, the level of melodrama and self-obsession in your writings that you willingly have put up yourself. I'm assuming that you put it up. Maybe Lauren wrote it. Maybe Lauren invented an alternate reality, and none of what you guys have said about yourselves is true. But what you're doing is you're creating a product to sell. And completely against our ethics code, you are using credentials as part of your product in a commercial endeavor. And the licensing board says you can't do that, John. If you are going to do something in the public social media, there has to be an educational part to that. There has to be something worthwhile and accurate to come out of what you say or do. And I have listened to your analysis, and it is not what we call analysis. It's bullshit. You're talking, and in a very strange fashion, you always seem to go back to sex. That's kind of worrisome. It's worrisome that you always go back to sex, even when there's no hint of any kind of sex issue at all. Right? So, telling you some bad stuff. And this live right here, off of Everyday with Jay, they get deep into ethics violations, and that's what we're going to play. Okay. It's probably going to take us 2 or 3 videos to get all the way through it. Jules, have you considered reporting him to the licensing board? Woodman, I am not able to talk about that. So, okay. I can say this. They have said on their channel that John has been reported to the licensing board, that he has been in communication with them. There was a live, I can't really recall exactly which one it was, but there was a live where he goes all the way through diagnosing, talking about sex as a kid, the whole thing. And then when he gets to the end, he says, I don't know because I can't diagnose him. And I was like, you slimy bastard. You use diagnostic language through your entire life. But then you get to the end and to think that you're being slick with the licensing board. You say, oh no, I can't diagnose. No. But you did. You used the language all through your life. So we know that the licensing board is in contact with him because he's editing now what he's doing. After getting an EDD, After getting an EDD, I went back to school and got my PhD in neuropsychopharmacology. It broke my heart. What's the issue, Colleen? Yeah, I don't want to get into arguments between people. I have a video where I explained like different degrees, the requirements for earning those different degrees and what they mean, right? So it is absolutely normal for someone to get like a doctor of education, like a 2-year, 3-year degree, and then go back and get a PhD. It's also really, really common for people to either be a medical doctor or be like a PhD, a psychologist, and then go back and get that additional degree. I've seen a lot of medical doctors that go and become psychologists. I've seen a lot of psychologists that go back to school and get that medical degree. So that is not unusual at all, Colleen, for people to get new certifications, new licensings and stuff. That is not unusual at all. And as far as the whole medical doctor thing goes, there's all different kinds of medical doctors. There's surgeons, there's general practitioners. There are areas in the country that are having such a hard time with getting doctors, healthcare people to work in those populations. Hawaii is one of those areas. The Dakotas is one of those areas that there are many psychologists that are going back and getting an additional master's degree. And that additional master's degree gives them prescribing privileges. And so if you go and you do this 1 year of study, you get licensed so that you can do prescriptions for people. And then they hire you and you're basically working like a nurse practitioner kind of. So yeah, I don't know what the argument is with you guys, but we need to be real careful about trying to, play a game of gotcha. I don't want to do that. I want everybody to be nice to each other and be, friendly, right? So, okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. I want to take a few more minutes. I'm not going to read to you. Well, I might read to you a little bit, but we're not going to make this like weird little books and stuff. The preamble to our APA ethics code sort of sets a tone for how they expect us to behave. And so the APA ethics code has as its goals the welfare and protection of individuals and groups with whom the psychologists work, as well as educating students, members, like younger members that are maybe don't have as much experience, and the general public. We have a responsibility. They teach you, they say to you, now you are a licensed psychologist, you need to correct when you see that somebody has put out inaccurate information, something contained within this ethics code. You have a responsibility as a licensed psychologist to point it out and correct, educate the general public, educate students, educate people that you work with, like if you hire somebody to do your insurance or answer your phone, that is part of our work. When you hire someone and you're working in the capacity of your license, you have your ethics code applies. And in this video that we're about to start, we have to remember this, okay? John Matthias, licensed psychologist, all over their channel, Princeton psychologist, professional psychologist, forensic psychologist. It's all over. They're making their money off of his credentials. That means, John, that you are governed by that ethics code. It's part of your licensing contract, John. So it's key to know that the licensing, the ethics code together, that is done in order to fulfill the goal that the welfare of the general public, individuals or groups that you may come in contact with as a psychologist, that they are protected, that you're not some nut that's going to do something terrible, like go get drunk with your employees and ask them to talk about the most private parts of their personal lives. Because that, John Matthias, creates a power differential. And the licensing, the ethics code, it says in standard 3.05 that you must, if you are acting in the capacity of your credentials, that you must remember the preamble, the spirit of the licensing code, which is to protect the general public and your patients and your employees and your students and the people that you are supervising, that you protect them and that you do not exploit them. That's the whole reason against standard 3.05. Avoid dual or multiple relationships. Avoid multiple relationships because they lead to exploitation and harm to the people that have less power than you do, John Matthias. And you're just you have thumbed your nose at our ethics code in a way that is shocking for me. Shocking. Like I'm the person that's on the phone with the licensing board asking to talk to one of their attorneys so I can say, can I do this? Is that going to be okay? How does that work with the standard, 5.16? And then their lawyers say, no, you're fine. You just do X, Y, Z and you'll be okay. John does seem to. John, I think, has the, in my opinion, John has the, he operates by the theory that it's much better to ask for forgiveness or beg for forgiveness than to, get permission. And I got news for you. The licensing board doesn't like to, overlook when people thumb their nose at their authority. So, the law, here's another point that I want to make. The laws that govern us, are a bit higher. No, said it wrong. The ethics code that governs us usually have a higher standard for behavior than what the law is. Okay. Now, the laws, the state legislatures, when they have crafted these licensing laws that keep us in line and stop us from making bad mistakes, they took the APA ethics code as guidance for how to do the laws, how to define certain elements of these laws that psychologists can find themselves in hot water for, malpractice, things like that. So if you follow your ethics code, if you don't violate the standards and principles that are in the ethics code, then you're safe. You're not going to get sued for malpractice or other terrible things, right? You're not going to hurt people if you follow your ethics code. When you start thumbing your nose at the ethics code, when you start, overlooking it and acting like, oh, that's nothing, I don't have to follow that at all, that's when you end up getting sued. All right? That's when you end up with problems. That's when you lose your license. When it is a habitual, blatant violation of the ethics code. So, multiple relations, or what I call dual relations. I think I called this video John Matthias's dueling relationships, right? Like, so a multiple relationship occurs when a psychologist is in a professional role with a person. He's hired Grayson. He pays Grayson. They've built their channel on psychological statements and analysis based on his credentials and training. Grayson is his employee. They're in a professional role. Okay. So when a psychologist is in a professional role with a person and at the same time is in another role with the same person, at the same time is in a relationship with a person closely associated with or related to the person, and promises to enter into a relationship in the future with the person or person closely associated with or related to that person. Now, that's a lot of persons. Let me just do regular speak. If you have a psychologist who's in a professional relationship of some sort, you could be a student. You could have a student that's working with you. You could be providing oversight for a medical student or a PhD student. If you hire someone to work with you in your job, and if your job is based on your credentials as a psychologist, you are you are defined legally as being in a professional role with your employee. Who's the employee? It's Grayson, correct? Okay, so this is very important for this video that we are going to watch. So the psychologist must refrain from entering into multiple relationships. For example, if you have an employee and then that employee says, oh, my child needs therapy, will you see my child? You can't do that, John. You can't. It's a direct violation of one of the single most important standards that we have. So it is, you have a professional role, and then someone wants to come in and bring a second role. How about this one? You have a patient, and that's a professional relationship. And then you think you fall in love with the patient and start an affair with them. Two roles, right? Lover and patient. John Matthias, multiple relationship standards 3.05 is the single most often cited violation that people lose their license for. Do you care? I don't think you do. I literally don't think you care. I think you are looking at that YouTube channel that is making $3 million off death of children, and you're thinking that we're on easy street, baby. I don't know. I can embrace my agoraphobia. I never have to leave this house again because I've got my little workhorse, Lauren, and she's going to put out all the nonsense, and our 300,000 subscribers are going to keep us in the lap of luxury. John, are you familiar with the fact that YouTube channels come and go daily? That huge channels with loads of subscribers will just vanish because the subscribers get tired of the same old thing and they move on to something else, someone else. That's a real phenomenon. I think anyone who looks towards their YouTube channel as a career that is always going to be there, I think you better be, I'll tell you this, I think you better be someone like Jolene Lunzer if you've got that idea. You better be bringing something unique and special to the table if you think this is going to keep you in the lap of luxury for 20 years. She is an excellent comedian, like funny. So I would expect her channel to continue to grow and be consistent, right? I don't see that for you guys. I don't see that for John and Lauren. What is going to happen to their channel if John loses his license? If those credentials are gone, what happens to the channel? You're going to get content like we got that night when Lauren was running around in the dark with mass murderers running free. That's what you're going to get, where she blatantly lied to her subscribers. So I think it's very interesting that he is thumbing his nose at APA and his licensing authority and doesn't seem to care. But here's another, that brings us to another very important part of standard 3.05, that these dual relationships, the multiple relationship, it creates an impairment in objectivity. What are we talking about? We're saying he doesn't seem to be aware. He doesn't seem to be noticing that he's being inappropriate. He doesn't, it's like he has no idea that he has claimed himself to be a licensed psychologist and that his work on YouTube is in the spirit of his credentials. He doesn't seem to notice that. So if that's the truth, if I'm right about that he is delusional or he is impervious or unaware of the reality of what he set up here, doesn't that go along with the third criteria that set him? That the multiple relationship creates an impairment in objectivity, competence, and effectiveness. And listen to this, Grayson. It puts you at risk for exploitation and harm. If a psychologist loses objectivity and competence, you are in danger. You may be exploited. I don't know how much clearer to make this. The standard does address being that one could be reasonably expected to behave in a certain way, right? Would a reasonable psychologist expect these things to occur, right? Reasonable is a legal qualifier there, okay? A reasonable psychologist would not engage in that behavior given these tests that have been laid out for standard 3.05. I think I'm probably a reasonable psychologist, okay? It seems that the evidence in my life seems to suggest that I err on the side of caution, that I'm very careful with the decisions that I make and what I do. And never have I been drunk with students. Never have I had alcoholic drinks with even like colleagues. If we go to a convention, I drink Diet Coke. And it doesn't matter that others may be having a great time and, partying. I don't care. Nothing is more important. My children come first, my grandchildren, my children first, my husband. That license is more important to me than my house. Making sure that I behave in a way that is 100% in line with the APA ethics code and the laws of my state, right? So all of these tests that are set out in the criteria have been met. This is unreasonable behavior, John Matthias. You're behaving in a way that is completely unreasonable in many, many videos, but this one, I don't know what you were thinking, John, but we're going to get started in reviewing this. And I think that I want to be so clear, okay? The fact that he talked to a police officer to try to have Christina put in jail for 50 years, when it is so absolutely clear that she did nothing wrong, even making her TikTok where she does not name these people, she did nothing wrong. Freedom of speech it's not absolute, but you do have the right. If you don't like someone, you can say that you don't like them. If someone violates you, you can tell your story. This woman, Lauren, actually silenced Kay Woodcock and Kresha as they spoke about the murders of their beloved, Kay's grandson. Their beloved, Kay's best friend brother. They said, shut up. We don't want you telling your story. We don't want people to know that that we exploited the shit out of you and made $3 million because of it. Why do the fake gems, the rhinestones, the CZs, why don't the cubic zirconias, why don't they care that this woman took Kay and Kresha's freedom to tell the story of their murdered loved ones? Why don't they care that these two clowns tried to silence them? It's the very weirdest thing I've ever seen, those 300,000 subscribers. So bizarre. But look, they've been heavily manipulated. Thanks to the hard work of the police and the reporting here at Hidden True Crime, we now know the real story. Manipulation. Shut up, Lauren. You did nothing. The reporting that has been done on Long Crime and Court TV, the Vinnie Politan, their reporting is far better than yours. But their facts are up to date. What do you mean? Thanks to the police and us? What? You guys are so unprincipled. It's scary. I would be mortified if people were showing, oh, look, Jules called herself a Princeton psychologist. Oh my God, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be terrified of the licensing board. Boy, they're just like, it's like they don't even recognize it. It's the most bizarre thing. This video is crazy. It was a live that was done behind Patreon wall. So it's only audio, okay? But you're going to get the picture real quick. It sounds like that Grayson might be drinking. And Lauren, sounds like they're drinking. I'm not sure that John Matthias is drinking. I didn't really ever. I felt like he was very foolish. I think his decision making was clouded for sure, but I don't know that he's drinking or using anything. But I think Lauren and Grayson, as you get into the video, you can definitely hear it in their voice. You can hear the slurry words, inappropriate giggling and laughter. Grayson gets louder as the night goes on. And she's just saying, well, what is this, John? Tell me about this. And he's telling her. And I'm going, what are you doing? So my question, John Matthias and Lauren, did you know that you were going to get Grayson drunk or impaired in some way so that she would speak more freely? Like, did you do this with the intention that things would come out that are very salacious? Did you here's another question, John and Lauren. Did you give any consideration to the fact that perhaps Grayson's mom and dad, or even most importantly, her brother, would not want the whole world to know about his medical condition? Did you care about, oh man, I'm triggered. John, did you care that you guys were asking her questions, you were eliciting from her protected health information of her brother and her father, her grandfather? Did you care, John? Or has this multiple relationship, dueling relationships that you and Lauren have put in place time and time and time and time again, time and time again, did it just strip you of all good sense? Have you completely lost your objectivity? Are you incompetent when it comes to acting like a professional when Grayson is in the room because of the dueling relationship? This chick is going and spending the night at their house. Her dog is sleeping with Lauren and John. Grayson is babysitting their child. And here's the coup de grace. This professional Princeton psychologist, so to speak, his wife wakes up and says, I'm going to end my life. And he says, okay, Grayson, I need you to stay with Lauren today while I go out. And I don't know what the hell you have to do. You don't have a damn job. Why wouldn't you, if this was something new for Lauren, if this was something unexpected for Lauren, why didn't you take her to the ER so she could get proper care? You can't provide that care. You can't do a Columbia with her. You can't do that because of dual relationships, John. You don't have the objectivity that is required. So you load her up and you take her to the damn doctor or the hospital where people can really objectively evaluate her and make a decision. Do we need to take extra measures, enhanced standard of care to keep this woman safe and alive? Or is this just some emotional, dysregulation, and we give her some medication, she'll go home, she'll be fine? You can't make that decision. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, John. You have a coveted license. Why are you not taking steps to protect it? That is a big question that I have.
Yeah, Lauren and John, I usually joke that I have to not introduce us because obviously it's us, but there's also a couple other people here, or one person and one dog.
Like it would take me hours every single week, and she ate fruits and veggies and raw meats and a lot of other stuff. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
I did it for like 2 years, and then I eventually and I did a slow transition back to dog food, and she thankfully took to it and does not get sick.
Why is that not playing? Hold on a minute. For some reason, it didn't. StreamYard did not pick up the video. Just a second. Sorry. Share screen. Okay, there it is. Oh, you know, I bet it's not going to play. I bet it's not going to play because it is, Jay's got it marked as a members only.
Every day anymore.
That's impressive. Well, Lily is only sitting by me right now, and it's because I have the cucumbers, and also she knows that I'm the one that feeds her at the table. So I have created that bad habit, but you deserve it. You deserve it.
Okay.
That's why she likes coming to work with me every day. She's like, I go there and I get food. My mom doesn't give me people food.
Can y'all hear them talking? You hear the audio. Annie Oakley, thank you. You're my hero. I've never seen anyone else with Grayson's wild eye movements. It's a little scary. It's a little scary. Hey, Cat Baloo. All right. Lauren is such a fake. She hates animals. Yeah, Blue Jay, we are like Noah's Ark around here. And I am right now trying very hard to get my husband to agree to a rescue of a like 90-pound Australian Shepherd. So gorgeous and little bit old and needs shots twice a day, right? So a lot of commitment, a lot of work, but oh, he's so precious and he's so cute. And my sweet drover passed away and I miss him so much. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get that sweetheart. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about, you know, makes me feel sad. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so you can hear it. So let's get started. Dr. J is just ignorant that he fails to get that Grayson is mentally impaired, even knowing her family history and mental, physical decline and obsession with Lauren. Yeah, well, Calissa, here's the violation, right? He's had this multiple relationship problem when it comes to specifically Grayson, but there's other people too that were put into multiple dual roles. But this is just specifically against Grayson. And remember that important part that I just explained, that when you are engaging in multiple relationships, you lose your objectivity. You become less competent, less effective in your professional role. And in this case, the professional role is he is the acting psychologist of a channel that is based on psychology, where he's using his credentials and he has hired her. So look at the power differential. The education power differential, the level of information that he knows, the amount of money he has compared to the amount of money Grayson has, his ability to get legal representation to sue her versus her ability to get legal representation to sue him. You see the power differential? She is at a distinct, clear disadvantage if anything should go wrong in these dual relationships. And it always goes wrong because you lose objectivity. Can we say it all together? Dual relationships create a loss of objectivity. You are less competent. You're less effective in your decision making. And here we have evidence, exhibit A. This is it. This is a whole, I could take this video right here and teach a class on ethics with this video alone. And this man who has a license, why doesn't he notice what he's doing? That's what I want to know. And more so, John, you can't get drunk with your employees and then start asking them questions about their family members' health issues, John. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's such a circus. It's just such a circus.
Do you love being head of HR? Yes, you do. Yes, you
So
do.
dumb.
So she's she's making us all smile right now, and we're going to talk about a very sad case. So
There
Fortunately,
you go,
as
Woodman.
head of HR, she has
Exactly
a very small
true.
department to run. So
Yeah.
she doesn't have
Oh.
too many responsibilities.
Just
And-
me.
Yeah.
and- right. And
Just me.
and the one person she supervises is
Look how damn self-obsessed this guy is. Look how ridiculously small-minded this guy is. Okay, you remember the day that I got Nubbin and I said that she was the executive producer of my channel? Do y'all remember that? That we work together and she's right there by me right now. Do you remember that? And then they come up with this. Oh, she's head of the HR department. Shut up, Lauren. Tell me that you're not watching my channel without watching my channel. Of course you're watching, but you're not listening. You're watching, but you're not going, oh, John, is this woman right? Are we okay? Could this get us in trouble with your license? Because we need your credentials for our fancy channel to keep going. Have you asked him, Lauren? Have you asked him if what I'm saying is accurate? Because it is. And what you guys do on this video, shame, shame, shame. Now, listen to what they do. They make a joke about the dog, Lily, being head of the HR department. Just exactly what I said about my sweet Nubbin, that she was my executive producer. I held her up and cuddled on her. Remember? Okay, it's a joke, John. It's for fun, John. But what does John do? He has to tear it down, doesn't he? He has to knock it down a bit. He can't allow the dog to actually have a title. He can't allow the dog to be important. John, this is so sick, honey. You are. So what does he do? He says, oh, it's a very small department. Lily doesn't really have a lot of responsibility. Are you just an asshole, John? Like, is this your whole existence that you just have to go around just peeing on people's fun? I think it is. I think his ego is so weak. His personal identity is so wrapped up in, oh, I'm a psychologist. I'm not a very good psychologist, but I'm a psychologist. I think his whole ego is wrapped up in that crap that he couldn't even laugh and let go a fun little moment of Lily's head of the HR department. Listen to, does this sound like a stable adult male? It's weird. You're so weird, John.
very small department to run.
Listen.
Food. It's why she
Listen.
likes coming to work with me every day. She's like, I go there and I get food. My mom doesn't give me people food.
Do you love being head of HR? Yes, you do.
Listen.
Yes, you do. So she's making us all smile right now, and we're going to talk about a
Fortunately-
very sad case. So
Fortunately, as head of HR, she has a very small department to run.
Fortunately, John, Lauren, how can you stand this guy? Like, really, how can you live with this guy day in and day out? Nothing is funny. There's never a reciprocal conversation. when he speaks to you, at least what we've been privy to, what you guys have blasted all over your 300,000 subscriber channel, he talks at you. He speaks at you like you're stupid and uneducated and not knowledgeable. And the great John Matthias is here to educate Lauren. If you try to like make a contribution, he either just totally dismisses it, doesn't even respond, or he gets angry, he's a little whiny baby, or he makes fun of you. He tells you you're wrong. He just did it to Lily. Fortunately, Lily doesn't have a very big department to run. Oh, really, John? Really? Nobody knew that, right? You are so weak about making sure that that people respect you, that you're threatened by a silly dog that's been called the head of the HR department. Okay, John.
So
yeah.
she doesn't have too many responsibilities.
Just me.
Right. And
Just me.
and the one person she supervises is very amenable to her direction.
I want to explain why we decided that too, because covering crime is difficult. We're about to talk about a difficult case, and it is so nice to have a dog here that doesn't know what we're talking about and is just like, I love you guys, and I'm here to pet, and I'm soft, and I just want to sleep with you guys.
Manipulation.
So, anyway, but Grayson, why don't I hand this cell phone recording over to you and tell us about this case.
Listen to how slurry her words
you've done
are.
Patreons before, so I can't welcome you. Welcome back.
Yeah. No, I was at home last night, whenever, and I saw this case online, and it just resonated with me a lot. I don't share it a lot. I have two siblings on the spectrum. One struggles a lot more than the other. And so this case was this 11-year-old in Pennsylvania who...
Of course, a child.
Clayton. His name's being publicly put on news, so I figure we could share it. And
you don't care what you share.
He was turning 11 this week. His family stayed up until midnight to sing happy birthday to him, and they, I guess, had taken away his Nintendo Switch, and it was time for bed, and he got angry. And
I don't think so,
Looking
Diane.
for his Nintendo Switch, found the key to his dad's gun safe, and ended up getting, I think it was a revolver. Don't quote me. A gun out of the gun safe, loaded it, and shot his dad. The dad passed away. But as I was looking more into it, I just kept seeing, like, I saw a letter. I'll actually say it was, her Facebook name is Abby Blabby. She posted it. It was a letter from the parents to the school district, like essentially begging the school district to put him in a special needs school for more help. They had adopted him in 2018. So he was around 3, I believe.
Okay.
I have a question, Grayson. So you're showing a lot of empathy. You're concerned about this kid and this family, the dad being murdered and all that. You're looking to blame others. You're looking to blame the judicial system. You're looking to say what horrible people, law enforcement, the attorneys, the prosecutors, what horrible people they are. What about the parents? What about why wasn't the gun secured? Why wasn't the gun in a gun safe locked? If you can just go into your mom and dad's closet to retrieve a Game Boy, and instead of the Game Boy, you grab the gun, then the gun is not secured, Grayson. So this right here is Grayson showing immaturity, right? She's looking at the tragedy of the story, and it is horrible. It is absolutely devastating, no question about it. But she's her empathy is driving her to misalign where the ultimate fault lies. And the ultimate fault lies in having a loaded weapon within arm's reach of a little kid. That's where the responsibility lies. Period.
I don't know the background really about adoption.
I couldn't find much background on it, but you could just tell that the parents had been like begging for help. And
hey, Carolina, good to
in my
see
own
you.
experience with my siblings and specifically my brother, you know, my family had a really hard time growing up because he struggled a lot with violence and with outbursts. I'll share his diagnosis. I actually talked to my family today before you.
Okay, I don't care if you talk to your family. Your brother is not of the age of consent. Now, John, the great and powerful psychologist that all of you CZs over there are so enamored of, you think that he's so competent and so wonderful, right? Okay, he ought to know this. As part of his licensing, he should know what I'm about to say. Your brother is not at the age of consent. And so going out and blabbing his medical diagnoses, even if your mom and dad say okay, and he is not of the age of consent, and you go out there and spread that around, when he becomes an adult, he can come back and sue your ass. You want to know something else that John Matthias said that was totally wrong, and I was dumbstruck. This is a professional psychologist, a Princeton psychologist, and all of you guys have built them up to be the be all end all, and you have no idea what you're listening to. Do you know what this man said? He literally, damn it. Excuse me. I'm really sorry about all this. He literally said, well, since the person is dead, you can probably get his medical information since he's dead. Excuse me, John. Again, you continue to marvel me with your paucity of knowledge. Okay? It doesn't matter if one is dead or not, John. If you're in a coma, if you're deceased, if you're living in heaven, HIPAA and FERPA remain in place. Your protected private medical information is not public fodder simply because you die. He doesn't know what he's doing, y'all. Hi, Annie. I know you've been talking a lot today. Okay. Hey, Cinnamon. Good to see you.
Do that really quickly. I think there's some important aspects of this case before you go forward about your brother, because it's so shocking to hear that a little boy just shot and killed his dad. I think part of the case before we go forward is what happened after the child. Yeah. The child said what? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So explain what happened that we know so far in the case, because that'll explain maybe the mindset the child was.
Yeah. In. So sorry, I was like trying to get to why I wanted to cover this so bad. I came in and told John we got to talk about this. But so Clayton, the mom hears a noise and smells what she says smells like fireworks, nudges her husband, no response, turns on the light, realizes he's bleeding. They call the police. At some point, he says, I killed daddy. And then the police also overheard him telling his mom that he had killed his dad. And then when they had asked him, I'm going to pull the article actually.
Yeah, let's read the article.
There was a really
good article. You read it to me.
Yeah.
It helped me sort of understand what this was a little bit. This is very sad.
He told the police he had a good day with his parents. When his dad told him he needed to go to bed, he got angry. And When police asked Clayton what he thought would happen when he fired the gun, he said, quote, he was mad and he had not thought about that. This is from WGAL. They're a local news source, and they got court documents.
So in other words, it seems like he doesn't understand consequences. Like he didn't realize he was thinking.
Yeah.
Or...
Clayton's
Yeah, like,
not
to
the
me, it
only
seems like
one
he
that
didn't
doesn't understand
think
consequences.
what happens when I do this, which is why it resonated with me, because in my own family, I noticed like my brother growing up never thought next step. It was what's now. There's never any
Again, Grayson is sharing personal information about her little brother who has special needs, who in no way can consent to any of this. Why didn't John tell Grayson, oh, let's don't add your brother's information in this live. We don't need to be talking about your brother's health, protected health information. We don't need to be talking about his educational achievement. We can't do that. That's not appropriate. A loss of objectivity happens with multiple relationships. Standard 3.05, John Matthias. You are the one with the credentials in this setting. You have the credentials, you have the experience, you have the professional training and ethics and professional behavior, and you just barrel right through it. It was up to you to control this situation. If I had been there, if I was the one that was in your shoes and that started coming out about her little brother, I would have stopped the camera, everything, and said, hold on. No. We can talk about what's in the news. We can talk about what's been reported in the news, but we are not going to be talking about your little brother. No, we can't do that. It's not okay. Now, if John was not there, if he was not in the conversation, then no harm, no foul, right? Lauren is not held to professional ethics or standards. She's just a YouTuber. That's all, nothing more. She's not licensed. There's no credentialing board has said, oh, this lady is competent and sane and normal. There's nothing. So if Lauren and Grayson get on and have the same conversation, it's bad. I feel sorry for the little brother. I think the little brother is probably going to hate her one day because she did talk about him in this fashion, but there's not an ethical mandate that it be controlled. But with John in the conversation on this channel, where he's advertised as a Princeton psychologist, he does not know what he's doing, in my opinion.
consequence or any like, if I do X, then Y and then Z happens. And so another interesting aspect of this, which I actually want to talk about, is they said he's being held without bail at the local jail.
What?
Perry County Prison. And
What?
I mean, I assume he's separated from adults, but there's something about it that doesn't sit right with me with an 11-year-old being in a prison. It's very clear he had mental health issues. And now he's sitting in a prison. No matter what way you slice it, this family's destroyed.
Yeah.
And he's being denied bail, and he was charged with criminal homicide, which in Pennsylvania, where he lives, after the age of 10, they're charged as adults.
Yes,
So he's
Calissa Cat.
also being charged as an adult. His lawyers can argue to charge him as a juvenile, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack, but it's like I just can't stop thinking about
Yeah,
it.
there is a lot to
And what
unpack,
is it that you
Grayson.
can't stop thinking about the most?
Yeah, I think
The horror,
just
Lauren.
there was a lot of factors. I called my parents today talking about it, and I was like, not that I ever thought that this would be our family, right? But like I when I talked about it to my dad's like, I guess I never really thought about it that way. Like we had a lot of struggles with violence. My parents were trying to get help. It's the lack of resources is insane. And just how, I guess I just couldn't stop thinking about how easily these situations can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And just how scary it is. And so I actually called my brother. Luckily, he's doing better than he was as a child. And I asked him if I could talk about some of his struggles growing up, and he was okay with it. And my parents were okay with it. I actually checked with my entire family, just because family's family. I just wanted to get everybody's approval and consent.
Yeah, it's private and personal, John. I'm glad you noticed. Why didn't you put a stop to this farce? Of course, you're the guy that says you want to adopt Colby. That was on you. Woodman, it is, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services HIPAA privacy rule, specifically 45164.502F. Protected health information about a deceased individual remains protected for 50 years following the date of death. During the 50-year period, there are covered entities like healthcare providers, doctors, and such, health plans, insurance companies, or clearinghouses that are charged with the safeguard of the decedent's protected health information to the same extent as if that person were a living individual. This includes limiting the use of a person's protected health information, disclosures about that health information, and just generally requiring authorization from a personal representative, which would be the executor of the estate. There are some specific allowances, such as disclosure to family members who were involved in care. So like if you were the one that was making decisions for a mom who had dementia, for example, then they would say that you were the protector, the holder of that information. So you would be able to get it. And then after the 50-year period ends, the information is no longer protected. It's not considered personal health information or private health information. So it loses that federal statute of protection. Yeah. So this has been, the rules changed like 2013. And so, yeah, you can't get people's protected health information in life or in death. And unless you're the executor of the estate or one of the attending doctor, you have to be the attending doctor. You can't just be a doctor. Let's see, for example, some very famous person dies, okay? Some very famous person dies in the hospital. Just because you're a doctor in the hospital, you can't access his records. They put it behind what they call a glass wall, so that if you, like when you go to look at that file, you'll get a warning screen that comes up and it says, you're not authorized to view this. Please get the proper protections. If you, the proper allowances. And, then if you've gotten that, then you can access. And then when you click that and you go into their health records, the warning lights at IT go crazy. Like they'll descend on your office within moments and they'll be like, get up and move away from your computer. You are violating federal law. Get away. And people get fired. Doctors get fired for trying to access another person's health record. So you don't just because you're a doctor, you don't get to say, oh, well, he's dead. I get to look at his stuff. No. The people that are allowed to look at that file are people that were treating him, that rendered care, that were responsible for writing medical record notes for that person that passed away. So I think it's abominable, John Matthias, that you don't know that. I'm having a really hard time understanding what it is that you're doing on that channel. It's very strange to me. Of course, if you don't like to work and you don't want to work and you don't have any intention of ever working as a psychologist again, why don't you just drop your licensing? Then you could analyze and do, well, you actually couldn't. There's still laws against that too. But it's very strange all the attention that is put on the great professional psychologist, John, and then he just, every live, he just barrels over all of the vital licensing protections and ethics. He just doesn't seem to care. If you want to, that's my view of it. It doesn't mean it's right, but it's the only thing I can think of. Have you guys ever seen another psychologist act like this? It's very strange. So yeah, John, you were the one with the most power, the most stature, the most education, the most money. You were the guy, you employed Grayson. And when this conversation started, you were the one that would be held responsible for stepping in and saying, excuse me, this is not appropriate conversation for a public platform, and we're not going to talk about it. That's all you do. It's easy to do to protect people, John. You have a duty to protect. And you did not protect Grayson's little brother.
So my brother, I'll say, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and then ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder.
Just give all his diagnoses. Yeah, that's a great idea, Grayson. John, you just sit there. Don't say a damn thing, okay?
He was diagnosed with ADHD and then had severe anxiety. And my sister, one of my sisters, had ASD. Although nice. Hers, back then they called it Asperger's.
Yeah.
I don't think they call it that anymore.
Nice, Grayson. Just blow the protected health information of every member of your family. Just put it out there. They don't care, do they? You don't have a right to, if your sister has been diagnosed with Asperger's as compared to full autism, she has a right to her privacy. She has a right to be able to go to a job interview and try to get a job without someone saying, oh yeah, I saw your sister on a YouTube channel and she said that you have autism. I don't think you're going to be able to do this job if you have autism. And is John Matthias saying, excuse me, this is inappropriate, we can't talk about this, turn off the camera? Did he? Did you hear a single word? It burns me up.
No. Hers was more socially geared. She struggled socially. And then
autism is about social issues. Doesn't have a damn thing to do with intelligence. I can't believe the violations of other people that took place in this live.
She had ADHD as well.
Oh, yeah, let's don't leave that out. Let's just go ahead. We're going to tell everybody she's got autism. She's got ADHD. My sister, she's a mess. My brother, he's an even bigger mess. He's violent. You wouldn't want to hire my brother. No. That boy's violent. He's unpredictable. It nearly drove me crazy when I was young. What's wrong with you guys? John, you were the one that holds the responsibility to control what is happening while the professional psychologist, the employer, is there in the room. You don't have any idea what your responsibilities are, where they begin or where they end, and people are getting hurt. This was hurtful to her sister.
So yeah, mental health has definitely been rampant in my family my whole life, but just seeing how fast this can happen, and then just really reading the letter from the school district is what angered me the most, because I just kept thinking about my own family and the struggles my parents went through to get help. Like, I think my brother's hospitalization started when I was in 2nd grade and he was in 3rd grade, so we were young.
Okay, so not a little brother. I'm sorry. A brother who's a year older than her. Projection, right? That Grayson looks to horrific crimes and she sees herself in that crime. Well, Lauren did that too, though, didn't she? Like, she literally believed that she was like related to JJ. she began to believe the information. Let me ask you a question, Dr. John. Just need a little guidance from the Princeton psychologist. Does that sound like personality disorder, John? Does that sound healthy? Is it okay to look at these horrific crimes, these murders, and interject yourself and make yourself a part of that story? To become delusional? But did you stop the recording? Did you say, nope, this is not okay to talk about. This is not appropriate. We're not going to do this. No? Why? Why are you not controlling the situation where your employee and your wife, who sounds really drunk, are having this really terrible conversation, naming everybody else's diagnoses, all because Grayson is scared that her brother is going to kill them because he's just like the kid in the story, Clayton. None of that sounds worrisome to you, John, as a professional psychologist. None of it. You're sitting there, you're in the room. You know that it's being recorded. You're watching your drunk wife. You're watching this young woman, Grayson, who is saying, I can't forget about, I'm obsessed with the story of Clayton. And my brother is going to be like Clayton, and we're going to die. He's going to be violent. He's going to kill us. None of that struck you as being problematic, professional Princeton psychologist? Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. This is shockingly bad.
What did the letter say?
Let's read it.
So this is a letter. When is it? And
this letter was from Douglas and Jillian Dietz. So they're Clayton's parents.
Okay.
It was dated October 9th of 2025 to the Susquehanna, I think that's how you pronounce it, school district. Attention, Director of Special Education.
Okay.
I have a question. If you can hear me, if I'm moving around and dancing, put a 1, because somebody came in and said, oh, is it frozen? But it doesn't look frozen to me. It looks totally normal to me. Everybody's good? Thank you. I hate troll. You're not even a very good troll. You're just boring. Okay. So thank you, Indelible Bloom, Diane, Cinnamon Hot. Thank y'all for being sweet. And hook, line, and sinker. All right, here we go.
And then the subject is formal demand for referral to Yellow Breeches Educational Center and notice of liability. So, and then it says, Dear Miss Bress and the school district administration, we are writing to formally demand that our son Clayton Dietz be referred to the Yellow Breeches Educational Center for specialized behavioral and educational support. Clayton is a 10-year-old child diagnosed with autism who has exhibited increasingly concerning behaviors, including sexual harassment, physical aggression, and theft. These behaviors have been documented and reported by school staff, yet the district continues to deny our repeated requests for referral to a behavioral school equipped to address his needs. We have made multiple attempts to engage with the district in good faith, and they list dates on May 29th, 2025, Clayton blank is redacted.
Jessica.
In June 2025, he blank redacted.
So they had this letter, right, from the school district about little Clayton. And they've apparently been frantically asking for help, that Clayton needs to be in an institute, like a residential program, that he's out of control, right? Well, if that's true, then why is the gun loaded and easily within reach? But they never say anything about that, do they? They just want to blame the school system. They want to blame the police. They want to blame the prosecutors. If there is someone in the home who is erratic and they're making bad choices, or they're acting out and they're being violent, then you advise the family, if you have any firearms, it would be better if you could give them to a family member, get them out of the house if you can. If you don't have anybody, then lock them up in the proper gun safe. We have a responsibility for what happens within our own homes, y'all. And it's horrifically tragic that this situation occurred. No question about it. No question about it. The school should have responded. They probably couldn't find an available bed, would be my guess. There were probably no beds available. But there's still that problem that all this kid did was walk in a closet and the gun was laying right there where he could see it, and it was loaded and was one in the chamber. He didn't even have to like cock it. So Grayson, let's be logical here, okay? The fault actually lies with the parents that the gun was not properly secured. And you're misleading your 300,000 subscribers, demonizing the school, demonizing the police, demonizing the prosecution. You're misleading them. You're missing out on a teachable moment. If there's someone in your house that is drinking too much, your firearm should be locked up and secured with a new code that the erratic person doesn't know. Even better, if someone is suicidal or violent, aggressive, you should take those firearms and give them to your mom and dad, or give them to your brother, or give them to your friend to lock in their gun safe. Get them completely out of the house. Same thing with medications. If someone is suicidal in the home, if there's someone who's very erratic, if they're acting out, if they're drinking a lot, please take all of the medication and lock it in a safe. Keep it away from them. Don't give them the opportunity to act out in a moment. You lost that teachable moment, didn't you? Professional psychologist.
On October 8th, 2025, so a day before this letter, he blank redacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
On July 27th, 2025, 100%. And again on September. We spoke with Ms. Eden and Bress on July 27th, 2025, and again on September 16th, 2025 with Lynn Cobb, Miss Mary, Miss Bress, and Kelly Smiley. On October 9th, so the day this was written, we were told the district must, quote, work within the confines of law. Despite these incidents and our proactive efforts, we have been repeatedly informed that Clayton, quote, does not meet the criteria for referral. This response raises serious concerns about the district's documentation practices and its commitment to student safety and appropriate intervention. Let us be clear. We are actively and responsively seeking preventative measures to support our child and protect other students. In the current societal climate, overlooking such efforts is not only negligent, it is dangerous. Therefore, we hereby notice this blank school district, I have a hard time saying it, that any continued refusal to refer Clayton to the Yellow Breeches Educational Center will be interpreted as a willful disregard for his behavior needs and the safety of others. Should Clayton engage in further criminal or harmful behavior, Douglas Dietz, Jillian Dietz, and Clayton Dietz shall not be held legally responsible. The liability will rest solely with this school district for its failure to act on documented concerns and parental requests. Furthermore, your continued refusal to take appropriate action potentially constitutes a violation of blank code.
So listening to that letter and just kind of read in between the lines, it's clear that this family had been ordered to take this kid to therapy, to have certain protections in place, maybe medications, and the family didn't do that. They didn't do what was offered. They didn't use services they had, which means they're not going to be given an escalated standard of care. If they say this child needs to be in therapy with this psychologist, meeting weekly, 60 minutes, or I've had some people refer to me for like 2 times a week, right? If they're in the hospital, you see them daily if you can. So if they're told to do this, if they're given the resources and they continually don't show up for therapy, they're just no showing. Then when the parents come and say, you need to put him in an institutional setting, he needs to go to residential care, They're going to say, we are not going to use one of our valuable beds when you haven't attempted therapy. You haven't done any of the things that the psychologist has suggested. You have failed to follow the behavior plan that was done with the psychologist. Until you do these basic things, we can't move you up that ladder of care. So, but is Grayson hearing that? No, they're just the bad old school, the bad old healthcare rules, the bad old prosecutors, bad old police. It's really shocking.
Which defines child abuse, and blank code, which addresses endangering the welfare of children under Pennsylvania criminal code. Should Clayton's behavior escalate due to lack of appropriate intervention, the district may be held criminally liable for its inaction. We urge you to reconsider your position immediately and initiate the referral process. Please confirm receipt of this letter and provide a written response within 10 business days. Sincerely, Douglas Dietz and Jillian Dietz. I mean, it clearly sounds like they had an attorney helping them write it.
Yeah.
With the civil codes. But yeah, I was just thinking, you know, luckily in my own family, my parents were able to afford sending my brother to specialized school. It got to a level when he was maybe 12 or 13 that they had to do that. But what about these parents that can't, right? They don't get the resources. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that. And then also just, I guess I'm just like kind of shocked at how fast it escalated. It's clear there was a pattern of escalation over time. But I just kind of wanted to get John's thoughts on everything.
Yeah. And before we jump to John too, so I want to ask, like, so he went to the gun safe, not even thinking the gun was in there, that the Nintendo Switch was in there.
That's
right?
what it sounds like. But he did also say that he had somebody in mind to shoot. So there is this level of like,
maybe he wanted to shoot someone.
Yeah. Or was there like, I mean, we don't know, right? Was there a premeditative aspect, or was it heat of the moment? Like I know for
a moment.
Like for my brother, everything was black and white. It's right then and there. This is what he thinks. This is what he does. There's no
impulsive and now.
It's exactly, that's the word, impulsive. So I guess so that kind of was like, maybe this wasn't as impulsive, but then the way the article reads with the court documents, it sounds like he didn't maybe think that there was a gun in the safe. He was just looking for his Nintendo Switch and thought that's where it was. And so I don't really know.
Yeah.
I also want to add, I've been looking, I don't think they had any other kids. So I just think it's very sad for Jillian. She just lost her husband.
And her son.
She clearly just lost her son. And who knows what's going to come out of this. Yeah.
Very sad. And I want to ask you more too, a little bit later, how it affected you. You know, how this affected your growing up.
Yeah.
Who's your older brother?
Why do you need to do that on a live for the whole world to hear, Lauren?
You have anything to say, or do you want Grayson to maybe chat about?
Well, I'm not sure. I think you guys are still
processing.
Where do you want me to jump in? I mean, I think
she literally just asked John for guidance in spilling protected health information about Grayson's family. The poor judgment in talking about their history. Putting out private information that John Matthias has no idea. Let me be clear. John Matthias has no idea that Grayson's father has agreed to this live. There is nothing that says that her brother has agreed or her sister has agreed to have all of their diagnoses put out there in the world where it is forever. John, aren't you supposed to get a signature on a piece of paper? Release of information, John?
I think, first of all, let's talk about what autism is. I think that's important. I think I'm just going to read, this is from a recent article, 2020. The title of this, it's a research article from the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, 2021. The title of this is Young Adults with Autism Spectrum Disorder in the Criminal Justice System. I'm just going to read the opening paragraph.
Yes, Dee.
Significant media attention has been drawn to the intersection of autism spectrum disorder and criminal behaviors, but relatively little.
Yeah, so Kai Leak is exactly right. Make no mistake about this, okay? Nothing about John Matthias has ever come in contact with people with autism. He doesn't have professional knowledge, experience, right? According to him, he just does the child perpetrators. Just does the forensic work, right, John? That's all you've ever done is you've got 500 forensic evaluations. Bullshit. So why are these people at this channel lapping this up like they're little kitties drinking milk out of a plate, out of a saucer? Why are they lapping up this nonsense where this guy knows nothing about autism and he's reading to them from a book? Can't you read your own book? Can't you go to Chat GPT and type in, what is autism? John, you don't know anything about autism, buddy. What are you doing? Acting like I'm a psychologist of everything. I specialize in every condition. I am omniscient and all-knowing. Fear me. The great and powerful Oz. This is just absurd, John. It's just ridiculous. And the fact that there are people that are so unsophisticated, maybe. I don't know what word to use. But the fact that there are 300 people that are just so simplistic that they accept all of this without question, it's very scary. It's very scary.
Empirical data is available that describes individuals with autism spectrum disorders' involvement in the criminal justice system.
Kylie.
There are concerns that individuals with autism spectrum disorder or ASD may be at greater risk for criminal justice system involvement due to ASD-related characteristics, such as difficulties understanding social cues and the emotional states of others, problems with change in routines and transitions, rigid thinking, restricted interests, and poor emotional regulation.
Now, make no mistake about it. This guy just read straight out of a book, and he does not have any idea what he's saying. He has never been confronted with these people. What do you want to bet? He's never done testing and evaluation, assessment of how a person who is on the spectrum, the special nuances of how they process information. He has no idea what to look for. If I started talking to him about doing the testing and getting a verbal IQ and then getting a nonverbal IQ to see how those two measure, the ratio between the verbal IQ and the nonverbal IQ, he would have no idea what that meant, what it suggested. He wouldn't. If I said, John, how would you test for nonverbal? Which most people would say the Peabody. He doesn't know. So he just reads to everybody in the channel, and then he restates what he just read. And they lap it up without any awareness that what is going on here is a walking ethics violation.
So there's a lot, right? That paragraph, I think, is really important to start this discussion because I've been hesitant to weigh in on this topic until now.
Yes, Kylie.
Because we get so many people writing us saying, hey, can you talk about autism? There's been so many high profile cases recently that have implicated autism in criminality and murder specifically, right? And so we get so many questions about that, right?
And you, sir, don't have the experience to give them a credible answer. All you do is you just go to Chat GPT and type in a question, and then whatever is kicked out by this machine, then you speak with authority and tell your listeners, and you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand that people are trying to stay away from messaging when they say that autism is not involved in violent behavior. Not the diagnosis, John, but very specific tendencies are correlated. But you don't know that. You wouldn't know that. Obsession, compulsion, those become a real problem when there is potential anger and outrage. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't know how to keep people safe. You know what I mean? So frustrating to listen.
And I've really been a little hesitant to weigh in because
you don't know.
Correct.
But tonight on this, I want to kind of clarify some of the research and some of the issues around this. And I think actually Grayson's brother is going to give us a very interesting and useful platform to discuss this, because his diagnoses are precisely relevant to the research on this. And they'll actually help us. The research will help us understand a lot more about how autism might relate to your brother's issues around violence, right? So
now John is about to take all this time to read this long, probably it is a doctoral dissertation, is my guess. But he takes this time to read this long report and everything. And then at the end, he says, anger is more associated with violence than autism. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding. But what makes people angry, John? See, the things you don't know. What makes people angry? Obsession, rumination, developing a fixation on someone that you perceive may have hurt you or interfered with you. That is why this is the craziest thing I have ever heard. And he speaks with such authority. And then in the end, he laughs. He laughs when he says, oh, anger is more associated with violence than a diagnosis of autism. Yeah, you better dig deeper, buddy. That you're supposed to be a psychologist. You're supposed to go deeper.
But let's back up a little bit, and for those listeners who don't know what autism is or know little about it, let's talk a little bit about what it is. Autism is basically, there's two main components of autism. The first is, this is according to the DSM-5, TR, temporary revision. The first main component is persistent deficits in social communication and interaction across multiple contexts.
I think I'm going to kind of
so
go
you
through
could
this.
have you could have deficits in social communication and there's an element of that toy, like an arm or a leg, or right, and they're going to use that specific detail to drive their play rather than the larger theme that a child with autism might develop. In other words, it's the rigidity that they have trouble seeing play as part of a larger imaginative canvas.
Right.
And so that's just, in general, that's kind of how autism gets defined. The other important thing is it occurs on the spectrum. So you mentioned that thought.
You're so brilliant.
But the characteristics of autism are, generally speaking, the deficits in social communication and the restricted repetitive patterns of behavior. Those are the two things that define it. And for this discussion, this is probably the most important thing. And that is that autism is a neurologically based diagnosis. In other words, autism is seen as something that primarily involves the brain, right, and neurological issues, rather than personality-based issues. So I think when we talk about crime and people say, oh, Brian Koberger has autism, the autism, played a massive role in the murders, right? What people were not getting with that is that autism isn't really about personality. It's about specific neurological responses to neurological behaviors that originate from a genetic and biological basis, typically.
Neurologically, my opinion is that Koberger is a primary psychopath. He never connected with anyone. He never even connected with anybody in his family. So he had a good family. They loved him. They did all the things they tried to do to try to help him. But it doesn't take much to look at him and tell he's not normal. And everyone knew that he wasn't normal, right? Not that having autism makes you abnormal. It was the psychopathy. It was the disconnect, the coldness and lack of empathy. That was what got it. Not autism, not that.
In the brain. So we know that kids with autism, for example, the cerebellum, which affects like balance, and the cerebrum, which is the cerebral cortex, right? It affects executive functioning and decision making. And then the amygdala, which affects emotions. All of those are affected. All of those brain imaging studies have shown that those components of the brain are all affected by autism, making it therefore more of a brain neurological disorder than a personality disorder. And that's important to understand, because when we talk about murder, a lot of times I think there's confusion over that difference. Mm-hmm. That people want to see autism as more of a personality disorder, when in fact it's not.
No, they
it's
don't.
Something it's more specific than that.
Neurological.
Right, neurologically based.
And why does Lauren? He goes through all of this, naming the different parts of the brain, and then Lauren just neurological. It's a nice word, isn't it, Lauren? I don't think you can define it, but you can say it. I'm so angry at these two people. My anger comes from the exploitation of others with this manipulative nonsense. It's exploitative. It's hurtful. They're misleading people about their experience and their professionalism. It's just so wrong to call yourself a Princeton psychologist. It's so wrong. It's wrong. Do you guys have an ounce of ethics in you or morality, like anything? I don't think you do.
No, I just
yeah.
Personality disorder, I think, would be more nature versus nurture combined, correct?
Yeah.
And then
right.
Autism is just nature, essentially.
That's right. That's a good That's a good interpretation.
I agree, Claire.
So one of the things that, for example, I mean, autism isn't super well understood in terms of the origins of it, right. But we definitely know there's more of a genetic component, because siblings, if you happen to have siblings with autism, the risk of autism, to have more siblings with autism, goes up dramatically, like 50%, and then the risk of passing that on goes up dramatically.
Quintessence, to answer your question, yes, we do have psychologists that have autism. Yes. We have now, thank goodness, we have programs at colleges where we work with students specifically on the spectrum. We provide whatever their special needs are. We make proper modifications for them so that they can be educated properly for their skill set. There are many people that have really, really high IQs, and correspondingly, there is an autism diagnosis. So does autism create high IQ? I don't think anybody's really made that definitive of a statement, but I'll tell you what does happen. People that are high functioning autism, meaning they've got a great IQ and they're dealing with the social problems related to autism, they have an uncanny ability for focusing on one thing for a long period of time. So they could like work on chemistry for days, like one chemistry problem, and it would make me and you crazy. Like we wouldn't be able to tolerate it. So that then predisposes them to developing a level of knowledge and experience that is just higher than a neurotypical person might be able to tolerate. I think the one that comes to mind is probably Elon Musk, right? There's plenty others too. Elon is just very, he's very visual. He's put himself out there in a lot of different ways that have been transformative to our culture. So yeah, it doesn't take much to look at Elon and tell he's off. Socially, there's some curiosity. His body coordination is a little bit off. However, he doesn't ever sleep. Instead of sleeping, he plays this video game, and then he'll be at work and he'll work on something, and he'll realize it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He'll just get under his desk and go to sleep on the floor under his desk. So I know there's a lot of people hate him because they think he's like part of the Trump MAGA world stuff, but I'm not making comments on politics or anything like that. But yeah, he's probably a really good representation of someone who is a genius and they're on the spectrum, right? And we do see that colleges are filled with people that are on the spectrum. They're professors. Same thing with hospitals. We have a lot of people that are working in hospitals. Most of those people are working in the research lab. They're brilliant. It's hard to really understand them when they talk because they speak at such a high level of understanding and knowledge that you're just like, I have no idea what this person's saying. And they don't edit their speech to match who their audience is. They just tell what they know. And so if you're not part of the research, if you don't know what they're doing, you have no idea what they're talking about. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Likely too. So in other words, and this is true in twin studies too. So in other words, there's a heritable, meaning there's a heritability issue, meaning that the gene for autism clearly shows up in families, essentially in families with autism. And it seemingly gets passed on. And then that gene obviously influences brain development and biology, right? That's where that comes into play. But also one of the things that seems to be the case is the prenatal environment has a tremendous influence on brain development. And so one of the things that research is beginning to find is that a prenatal development or environment where there's a tremendous amount of stress and poor nutrition, right? When there's a lot of elements that are negative for prenatal development, it seems to be the case that that's having a major impact on potentially on the fetus and brain development in the fetus. And then the other thing that's interesting about the current research is that they're finding some connection. None of these are like completely connected, but they're finding some connection between the microbiota gut-brain axis. That's what it's called. In other words, right, the connection between
this is
a healthy intestinal environment versus one that's not. And all of that, by the way, is also influenced by the prenatal environment and stressors in the environment. So it's not purely genetic and biological. There's obviously, and we're going to talk about, by the way, family culture and how that can impact autism too. But there's
you're going to talk about Grayson's family.
in terms of their potential impact on autism. So that's kind of, it's a little background on autism. I'll just jump right into, and this is something completely related to your situation, your brother, Grayson. So probably the most important study on autism in recent years is
Nancy.
From the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry from 2017. The title of this article is Autism and Convictions for Violent Crimes, Population-Based Cohort Study in Sweden. So this is a very large study, cohort-based study, population study from Sweden that has, it looked at a sample of 295,734 individuals, of which 5,739 had an autism diagnosis. So you have a really large sample. They look closely at this cohort, and here's their main finding.
Okay.
I'm going to quote this here. Quote, in this large population-based study, a higher proportion of individuals with autism, particularly those without ID, which means intellectual disability, a higher proportion of individuals with autism had been convicted of a violent crime by the maximum age of 27 years than those without autism. So initially, when they looked at this data, they were starting to see that they thought there was a relationship between autism and violent crime.
Okay, interesting.
But here's the caveat.
Okay, yeah,
But, and I'll continue to read here, quote, however, co-occurring ADHD and conduct disorder largely
wrong.
explain this increased risk.
Interesting.
No, but leave the conduct disorder out. The Swedish study found the interactive effects between having an autism diagnosis and ADHD and the conviction for violent crime. Okay, leave that there. He conflates a lot of other things and tries to put it in one simple statement. You have to, on these research projects, because they're so, they have so many different questions, they have so many different variables that they're trying to relate. I don't know if that was a, I don't know. I have to go back and look, but the study itself, the first important finding is you get an increased number of arrests for violent crime if there is an autism diagnosis and ADHD. Okay, so those two together, you do get increased convictions. Question, what were Adam Lanza's diagnoses? ADHD and autism, right? Same thing with Koberger, ADHD, and so you know, yeah, that type of information just, well, I don't think I want to say that, but we'll keep going. I'll be quiet now.
These conditions, meaning ADHD and conduct disorder, along with other later onset psychiatric disorders, specifically psychosis, and alcohol and drug misuse, meaning substance abuse, were the most important individual predictors.
Boy, he messied that up. He dirtied that up. He's throwing the whole kitchen sink. That's the kitchen sink argument. He's putting it all together. Let me be very clear. Autism and convictions for violent crime coming out of a population-based cohort study in Sweden in 2017. Autistic people without co-occurring ADHD do not show increased risk of violent crime. compared to the general population. Listen to this. This is carved in stone. I don't know why he is misrepresenting the results. Any elevated risk was almost entirely explained by co-occurring ADHD. What he just threw 7 or 8 diagnoses out there with the results of the study. Why would he do that? Oh, he's trying to misrepresent the knowledge. Why would you want to misrepresent the knowledge? Because it's uncomfortable? I don't know. There's also gender differences, right? Which we would expect just based on testosterone hormones. Okay, I don't think I'm going to say any more of that.
Of violent criminality and autism. So in other words,
Bill,
It's not autism.
can you give me one of those flavored waters?
We just talked about Nick Reiner and schizophrenia, that in many ways, schizophrenia is not the cause of violence.
Lauren, it is autism. When a condition exists where someone has autism and ADHD taken together, you get an increased risk that you'll be convicted for a violent crime. That's all it says. They're not saying that it's the kiss of death. They're not saying that it's prophetic. They're not saying that, if you have ADHD and autism, you will be a violent criminal. That is not what they're saying, Lauren. They're describing circumstances. That's all. Autism alone doesn't generally lead to aggression and violence any more than just being a member of the general population, being neurotypical. Doesn't affect. But when you add in that ADHD diagnosis along with autism, then yeah, it might indicate a situation where people want to provide a higher standard of care. If you have a patient, if you're a psychologist and you have a patient that is diagnosed with autism and they have ADHD, and the school is complaining about that student being aggressive towards others, you better listen. You better pay attention and provide the proper care. That's what it means, Lauren. It's not prophetic. It doesn't say if you have autism and ADHD, you're going to commit violent crime. Not by a long shot, not even close.
It's substance abuse and psychopathy, right?
Yeah, right.
And with autism, you say with autism, you have a very similar finding, which is that when you're younger, that the factors that influence risk are ADHD, which your brother had, and conduct disorder, so your brother had oppositional defiant disorder, which is the precursor to conduct disorder. Right. So you don't diagnose conduct disorder.
What is this guy doing? Like, how do you, as a professional licensed psychologist, how do you go on a live where people are listening and just spill your brother's diagnoses? The guy is sitting there right now telling you that your brother is at an increased risk of committing violent crime. Oh, well, it's not just that your brother has autism and he has ADHD, but he also has oppositional defiant disorder. And oppositional defiant disorder is the precursor to conduct disorder. Girl, you're in danger. Your mom and dad are in danger. Your brother's going to hurt someone. No, John, that is not what the research says.
Typically until,
This conversation, I want to be really clear. This conversation should never have occurred. And the reason that it should never have occurred is because Grayson is an employee of a licensed psychologist. She is an employee. that means that he has a great deal of power over her. He could ruin her life if he decides he's unhappy with what she's doing. So this conversation right here is a violation of our professional ethics. This conversation should have been handled like this. Grayson, it's not really appropriate for me to ask you these questions and know this much private information about your family members. Let me refer you to one of my colleagues. Go to one of my colleagues in privacy and explain all that's happening and let them guide you through this. That's the way it should have played out. And what they did, and remember, it's going to start sounding like Lauren and Grayson are very intoxicated. So this was happening in an environment where there was alcohol being served. So many problems here.
You typically diagnose it. Well, let me take that.
Conduct disorder the same as bipolar, or is that different?
No, they're different.
No.
So conduct disorder, so oppositional defiant disorder would be, let's think of oppositional defiant disorder would be a lesser version of conduct disorder.
Okay.
Conduct disorder would be the precursor to antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
Which then antisocial personality disorder, it can be closely aligned with psychopathy, right? Okay. So think of those along a continuum.
Yes,
ODD,
highly.
which your brother had, conduct disorder, antisocial personality disorder for adults, psychopathy. Those are all related. So, in other words, this study essentially found exactly what you said about your brother. Like, the autism wasn't the thing that necessarily that led to your brother's violence, right? It was more the ADHD because of probably the ADHD with impulsivity, and then ODD. The ODD was more of a personality variable.
Yeah, and I will add, my brother's situation, he was diagnosed really late with autism.
Okay.
Maybe he was like 12 or 13 when they finally got the autism
That is not
diagnosis,
really late.
He'd already been diagnosed with ODD, and was already he'd been in speech, since he was
speech.
young,
Yeah, we might as well
now,
include that, right?
Like 26, he's still.
Why don't we just include all of the disabilities? Why should that'll be fun? And yet, meanwhile, back at the Hidden Heritage Homestead, we're not getting any information about Grayson's diagnoses. Grayson, why aren't you telling us what all you have? Why aren't you telling us about the things that are wrong with you? Or why aren't we getting the diagnoses about Lauren? I'm sure John's got a couple of diagnoses that we could pull up and talk about. Why are we only talking about your brother who is not there? And my guess is he did not sign a release of information for Dr. John to put this out on a Patreon Live where 300,000 people have access to it. What, Lauren, why don't you do a live just like this and talk about your diagnoses, the medications that you take for your psychiatric conditions? That would be interesting, Lauren.
Struggles with speech.
Okay.
And not a lot, but he has a lisp, and but he was diagnosed really late.
Yes, cinnamon. Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. I just was thinking about that. It was a very late diagnosis.
So in other words, the other things were more clear.
The other things were more clear. They were diagnosed a lot earlier.
I would agree with that quintessence.
My parents did combination of not remedies, treatments, I guess. He did therapy, and they worked with social workers.
Yeah, Grayson, exactly why do you need a therapy dog, sister? What's that about? Why do you need a therapy dog? I mean, you're willing to put your brother's information out there, your mom and dad, a grandfather. Why are we hearing about you? You got a therapy dog. Why isn't it just a dog? Why didn't you just get a pet? Why is it a therapy pet? Exactly. Trauma?
through like the county mental health services, and he was on medication. So they were kind of like mixing everything, trying to figure out what
Yes,
to
Lucia.
do.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I also
Yep.
want to point out, as he's gotten older, the violence has decreased significantly. Like a lot significantly. But I think that's also just him. I always felt like maybe his mental age was like 6 years behind normal.
Mm-hmm.
So like even when I talk to him now, it's like if I was talking to a younger sibling, not necessarily my older brother. Like he'll call me to talk about a situation. I'm like, well, why don't you just do this? And you know, so it's still like walking him through things.
Yeah.
This is gossip. 100% gossip. Why do I say that? Well, one reason I said it, because someone else just said something about gossip. I don't see who it was. Someone said it. Mystic Firefly says, so diabolically unprofessional and unfair to label someone based off of being gaslit by an intrusive sister who gossips. Mystic Firefly, you are hit the nail on the proverbial head, girl. Look, that is exactly true. This is salacious gossip. That's why there's alcohol, right? Because it lubes the wheels and gets them going, and you get your tongue gets a little looser and you start getting into the down and dirty, correct? So the gossip is this, right? This live that's been put together by what I believe is probably Lauren. This is designed to be shocking. If you agree with me, put a 1 in the side chat. If you don't think it's designed to be shocking, put a 2. I think that is the reason that they put it behind a paywall on Patreon. I think the personal aspect of it, that this is Grayson's life that she's talking about, all of that was by design. It wasn't about Clayton. They could have just told that story like they always do on their channel. No different than talking about Dr. McKee. Just tell the story. What happened? You got police reports. You have everything, right? Why did they take it behind the Patreon paywall? Money, 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 right? But to get people to want to pay that Patreon fee, to get money willing to come and listen to your salacious gossip, it's got to be outrageous, right? It's got to be outrageous. So, yeah, I think it was contrived by Lauren. I think she knows the game. I think she's manipulative and intentionally trying to come up with extraordinary things that make people kind of want to come back and, see it. Lord knows none of them have a personality like Jolene Lunzer. None of them can offer the information in a way that's amusing or even mildly interesting. So they have to say something that is outrageous. Now, one question that I have is this. We're gonna hear the story about Grayson's grandpa and dad, okay? How do we know that's true? How do we know the story is real? Just the word of 3 people that have been caught in how many lies? So they have proven, I love Jolene too, Queen of Hearts. She's so much fun. Yeah. So now they have a new victim, Inga. Yeah, exactly. Grayson's brother, her dad, her biological grandfather, they have been exploited by a professional psychologist and his wife. Agreed, Kelly. It was horrible. And everyone's got a touch of ADHD. I've got it. I'm doing pretty good. Both of my kids have a touch of it. They're doing great. just because you have something like ADHD or even autism, high functioning autism, doesn't mean that you should be feared or controlled or put in a negative light. It's just different ways that the brain processes information. That's all it is. So this exploitation of a family, right? The way that they put this behind the Patreon wall and then made it messy. This just gossip. Here's how I know that it's gossip, John, because I can certainly understand if there's someone who is having issues within the family and they would like the input, the teaching, the education by a professional psychologist. I can certainly understand where somebody might ask that. I've been asked myself, and what did I say, John? I said, oh, that's such a good question. It sounds like you and your family are struggling. Let me refer you to one of my colleagues. Not going to have that conversation with someone who works for me. I don't want to know what's happening in their home. It's private. Knowing what's going on in an employee's home changes the way I might react. And that should never happen. All employees should be treated equally. You should have a standard for your office. And when those standards are violated, then you should have already something you've already planned, the result of those broken rules. That's all. I shouldn't be able to be manipulated because an employee has told me all about, the schizophrenic mommy. That should never happen. Multiple relationship standard 3.05, John, read it. You should know it by heart at your level. What we hope for with autism, what the push is for is we'd like to have them identified by the time they're 5. And the reason that we would like that, and pediatricians have been great in getting that word out, to be aware of certain behaviors that might signal autism. The reason that we need to try and have them identified, we may not even give them a diagnosis that young, but those kids that are not making eye contact, those kids that are not responding to their name being called, there's certain things that if you see that, we need that pediatrician should refer that child then to a psychologist who's working in the field, because we know this for sure. The earlier that we start social skills training, we start interacting with these kids and we teach them the conversation and social skills as if we were teaching math or English. We teach it like it's a class, even information about emotions and motivations. We can teach it like it is a learned skill that you would pick up in math. And the earlier you can start that, then the more likely that the child will kind of develop those learned behaviors and it will look natural to them, i.e., they begin to present as a neurotypical. Even though they're still not neurotypical, but they've learned through organized education more like how to have a reciprocal conversation with someone. That's something I teach all the time. Okay, now I'm going to say something, and then you have to figure out a question to ask me back. And then I model answering, give an answer and then ask the other person the question. And we just go back and forth, right? It's natural for neurotypical people to look at conversation like that. But for some reason that we don't really understand, people on the spectrum don't naturally do reciprocal communication. They're very organized and very specific. If they communicate, they just want an answer to their question and then they want to move on, right? So teaching reciprocal communication, that's only one little picture of overall social skills training. But if the earlier we get it, then the more likely that they will use their learned skills and it will look like it's neurotypical. It will be comfortable for the other person. If it's later, we don't have that brain plasticity benefit. They still can do it, but it feels very stilted. And again, I'll refer back to Elon Musk. He's probably the best example of it. He knows what's appropriate, but even when he does it, it's kind of robotic and kind of off, right? It's a little bit strange. I'm behind, but if you have ADHD but not autism, is there a higher risk? No, the study that was done didn't really account for that. It was specifically a question about autism, and there's no link between autism and violent crime. But when you add in ADHD into your multiple regression analysis, then you do get a statistically significant effect, right? So that's really what they didn't talk about autism. I mean, ADHD alone. Elon, even though brilliant, you can see some of the, definitely, Nancy. As a reporter, if I see something, even not at work, I have to report it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely, Mary. Yeah. And as a mandatory reporter, you're not an investigator. It's not your job to investigate to see if it's really happening. Your job is to throw up the red flag. As a mandatory reporter says, oh my goodness, we might have a problem over here. Please look into this. And then the people who actually are the investigators, then they go out based on your report. So if you're a mandatory reporter, don't be scared to throw up the red flag. You may save a child's life. You don't know. So do what the law says to do it, and continue teaching your class or do whatever you do. To read someone spotting to is correctly done demographically. I always make sure. Oh, yes, Nancy, thank you for saying that. So same thing when these two people, John and Lauren, when they start spouting off research, please look up the research and read it yourself. Same thing with his books. I was astonished that he's using a book from 2017 to say my wife didn't do anything wrong. 2017? Really, John? That's the best you could do? So yeah, look up what they're using. They're so manipulative. He decides what he wants to say, and then he goes and looks for research that will mimic what he wants to say. And that, John, is called phishing, isn't it? And it is a violation of your research ethics. Yes, contained within the APA ethics code.
Yeah. But that's interesting. Yeah, that violence has decreased as he's gotten older.
And I also don't know that he ever did get like a conduct disorder diagnosis. Well, I mean, once you're 18, it's kind of, you're on your own in the system. Like, my parents could only do so much.
Right.
So they couldn't like force him to go to a doctor to get more diagnoses or,
Yeah, it's not there.
Medication or whatever they can encourage, but he does ultimately what he feels is best for himself, and
just like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just to summarize kind of what this study I referenced, they basically say, I'll just quote this here. Again, the comorbidities here are ADHD and conduct disorder. And again, conduct disorder is closely aligned with oppositional defiant. I mean,
I don't know why he's
the
saying
biggest
that.
distinction is the conduct disorder involves more actual potentially more actual criminal behavior or criminal convictions. Right. Whereas ODD is
we have limitations, Woodman,
in terms of requiring fewer run-ins with the law, for example, or fewer actual problematic behaviors. But they say, quote, in the absence of these comorbidities, individuals with autism were no more likely to have convictions for violent offending than the general population.
Okay. Why are you saying that when your employee has already told you that he has all of them? Why are you trying to soften the blow? Why don't you just deal with facts?
So again, like making the distinction between autism as a neurologically based disorder and a personality disorder is really important because ODD becomes potentially and cognitive disorder become precursors to more personality based issues.
Right. So bringing it back to Clayton a little bit, I guess my question would be, so it wouldn't necessarily be the autism, right?
No.
I think there's probably, he was adopted at 3. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but I would assume there's some attachment going on. I mean, clearly his parents from the outside looking in loved him very much and did everything they could.
What is the point of this thought exercise? What is that? You're Grayson, you are not a therapist or even a psychologist. You don't know. What are you doing? Why are you working so hard to discount the fact that it was only the ADHD and nothing else? Maybe the good doctor should have explained to you what an interaction is in research. Then maybe you would understand more. The interaction is those two things existing together, the autism along with the ADHD together. You don't get to pull them apart and say, well, which one's worse? It's not a matter of which one's worse. It is a matter of how the ADHD and the autism are interacting. It's like making a new chemical. You get a chemical reaction, you put these two things together, you get a third brand new kind of chemical issue. So it doesn't do you any good to try to say, oh, it was only the ADHD or it was ODD or whatever. No, interactive effects are a new thing that stand alone. We can calculate specific power, predictive power. We can include that interactive effect. We can put it into an analysis as a single variable. So I don't know why John just lets this go on. It's a dumb conversation.
I assume it's probably some like attachment. And then like when you were talking about autism, your definition, you mentioned a change in routine. And it like made me think of how they said that they had stayed up till midnight to sing to him that night. And so could that change of routine, like let's say that kid went to bed at 8:00 every night. I don't know. Could a change in routine like that have kind of set him off a little bit?
Well, even taking away his Nintendo Switch.
Right. Things like that. But like, could that?
So what are you going to do, Lauren? You're just not going to like punish your kids when they break laws because they could kill you? Is that where we're going with this conversation? That's silly, right? Kids, all kids, people, all people, they need an adult in the room who can teach them how to tolerate uncomfortable emotions, to have some coping tools that are effective when they are emotionally dysregulated. So they don't go crawl up in bed and go live for 9 hours when they're the one that is 100% in the wrong. What do you mean? You're going to blame taking away his Nintendo as the reason that he killed his dad? That is not why he killed his dad. That is not why he took the gun. He was angry. And he was angry because the way he viewed the situation was that he had been wronged. So you have no idea as you go into this exercise discussing this guy's private health information that he has autism, he has ADHD, and anybody with autism and ADHD is at danger, blah, blah, blah. The reality is you don't know if that dad had been beating the shit out of this kid every day because they were dysregulated and high energy. You don't have any idea what the circumstances were. You have boiled it down to a very simplistic single factor. Oh, he has autism with ADHD, and that equals criminal behavior. And you are so wrong and so irresponsible.
All combined be what caused.
Yeah, that too, Amy.
The violent tendencies
Right?
and ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know if he had ADHD.
Yeah, we don't know.
It is
right?
going to
It does
blow up,
sound like-
Lynn. It is going to blow
letter
up.
to
You're
the school
right.
district simply cites autism.
And it says this is autism, but also cites behavioral issues.
Yeah,
It says sexual harassment,
Oh, God.
physical violence,
And
Oh, God. Of
and
course.
theft, which are
Of
not.
We're going to have, if it's a kid, we better talk about their sexual activity, right? Because they all have it. Stop. Just quit. You guys are in no way, not even close to being competent to even have this conversation about this kid. This is diagnosing without a proper evaluation, John Matthias. To go through and to call out, to list all of the behaviors that you're seeing and talking about the different activity. You're trying to diagnose someone that you have no access to. You don't know what's happening. You don't know if that kid is not a victim of violent crime against him. Well, let me ask you this question, John. Do you feel like if your child goes to bed every night at 8 o'clock, you follow with the same schedule? I assume you do, because you know people that know about child development try to do that. Get in the bathtub at the same time, do the same nightly care routine, get in bed at the same time, read a book or some other little thing, and then lights out at a certain time, right? Because it gets the kid into a good habit, right? Which is what we're trying to teach if we're good parents. What if this kid went to bed every night at 8 o'clock? And these parents thought, idea, give me another beer. Let's keep them up to midnight. Then we can ring in a birthday. It's going to be great. What if it was that circumstance, John? What if they were drinking? The parents were not, they were not being conscientious. And they took a kid who was on the spectrum and they kept him up until after midnight. Would that create agitation, John? Could that make him very uncomfortable? And maybe the way he regulates, the way he manages his emotions is by playing his video game. And so now the drunk parents, the irresponsible parents, the dumb parents, the uneducated parents, whatever the problem was, they keep this kid up till after midnight because it's such a great idea. And then when he acts out predictably because, he's tired, he's out of his element, the normal way of doing things wasn't followed, and he feels uncomfortable, he feels bad. And he says, I need my game. I need to calm down. I need to regulate. And they're just being stupid. And they're like, no, get away. Can't have it. Maybe he blew his top. Maybe he lost control. But that's not what you guys are doing. You guys are throwing out individual diagnoses. You're trying to take what is a horrible, horrible situation that is multifactorial, that is probably intergenerational type of issues. And that is very irresponsible to do to people. If I know nothing, right? If I know nothing about this stuff, and I know that my child has been diagnosed with high functioning autism and ADHD, but I'm just listening to you guys because I like you. Lauren's cute and John's smart, and I just want to be friends with these people. And then all of a sudden you start talking about how this kid who's like your kid just up and kills the dad for no other reason. Then in that person's mind, they think that dad that got killed is exactly like your really great husband, that he's been a good dad, and that it was completely a calm, nice, easygoing night. When really, in the reality of this kid, it was a shit show. It was messy. you're doing a terrible disservice to people by operating like this, y'all. You gotta stop. Y'all have to quit this. Other people's disabilities are not fodder for you to make money off of. This is so wrong. This is so wrong. I'm incensed. I am really, really disturbed.
Yeah.
Right. So that's starting to definitely move into the terrain of oppositional defiant disorder for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even conduct disorder.
Oh, great. Let's go ahead and give him more diagnoses. That's awesome. That'll help a lot.
Could the disruption of his routine matter? Yeah, because it depends too what level.
Exactly, Annie.
On the spectrum, but disrupting a routine. I mean, one of the at the higher levels
Karen.
of autism on the spectrum.
Absolutely true. So wrong.
When you disrupt that restricted, repetitive pattern behavior, I think the more potential problems you're going to have. And by the way, there's a interesting hypothesis called the dysregulation aggression hypothesis about autism, which essentially says, so as long as we're talking about kind of disrupting routines, the dysregulation aggression hypothesis basically says that aggression becomes more likely when there's a failure to regulate arousal levels under increasing amounts of stress. So in other words, dysregulation is when
Hey, John, question here for the guy that's never been in the room with a kid with autism, be my guess. Is it possible that the video game was what he used to regulate his emotions? And he was really out of sorts because it was over. I personally think that it is horribly, terribly irresponsible that those parents thought that was a great idea to keep this kid awake until after midnight to bring in the new birthday. Do you know how many hours of my life I have spent training parents to have a schedule for their child? And like with good sleep hygiene for nighttime, right? Teach kids good sleep hygiene, learn the good sleep hygiene yourself. And also follow the pattern in the mornings too. If your kid normally wakes up at 6 a.m. on school nights, on Saturday and Sunday, do not let them sleep in until noon. If they usually wake up at 6, let them sleep until 8. They still get to sleep late, but they're not so far off of their schedule that they're going to disrupt their biological rhythm. I teach parents this for hours, people. It's like the relaxation stuff. I do it so much that, it's just like I spend my whole day about asleep because I'm always doing the breathing patterns and stuff. So I'm a little disturbed that as they're going through this and they're talking about the situation that occurred, that John Matthias doesn't talk about that. He doesn't really talk about the pressure that it would have put on a kid with autism to stay up until after midnight. And then what? And then what do? You keep them up till after midnight. Neurologically, they're a mess. You sing happy birthday to them, and then you expect that they're just going to be quiet and calm and go to bed? No, they're going to be agitated. They're going to be uncomfortable. This is, John, I would be happy that this was out there for the licensing board to find.
When you can't regulate emotion, when you can't regulate stress, right? So the opposite of that would be a child that has the capacity a child who can regulate emotions and stress and arousal would be a child that's capable of self-soothing, right? A child that can't self-soothe is more likely to become agitated. They're more likely to become aggressive, right? They're more likely to escalate their behaviors. And so it's the arousal. It's actually, and this is true in schizophrenia too, that the stress levels have in the family and in the home And this has to do with routine,
Mhm.
right? If you disrupt the routine, the child becomes more aroused,
Right.
and agitated. And if the child can't self-soothe, there's more probability that child's going to act out.
Yes. Yeah, so what if the video game was how he soothed?
This is the connection between autism and the home environment. In fact, I'm gonna read from another important study that's fairly recent. This is from 2018. This is from the journal Aggression and Violent Behavior. The title of this article is Violent Behavior in Autism Spectrum Disorders, Who's at Risk? So this is another important study in this arena. They found a similar conclusion, by the way, that autism is not the cause of violence.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's what they say.
Lauren. I can't. The way she just repeats, the words is just so funny. Hearing John say arousal turns my stomach. Okay. Doesn't he love to read? You know what my question is? Why doesn't he know this stuff? Like, why doesn't he have it in his head? Why does he have to pick books to read? It's because he's commenting on things that he's unfamiliar with. He doesn't know about autism. It's my opinion. Let's make a new rule. No more books for John to read. Boy, that would change the picture. Thank you. Wouldn't that be interesting? John, do one of these lives where you don't refer to a single book. You only use your memory. In fact, I would challenge you, John, to a debate where you don't get to pull up anything. We have to just use whatever's right up here in our noggin. That would be fun. Autism's no kidding. Oh, I know, Nancy. It's so silly. I'm sure he's not kept up on current research. I don't think he knows any research when it comes to autism. No. He hasn't worked in years, so he has to have the books. I mean, it seems like he hasn't worked, right? I just want, I love the Decoder Detective. I love his channel. Yeah. I'm not going to label anybody a mystic. I recommend, don't leave here though, these two. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, Decoder Detective he's really good. I like his channel. I don't know, Kylie. There's a story there with old Johnny Boy. Does he ever leave the house? Does he ever do anything? He must leave the house because he left Grayson in charge of Lauren. I mean, even to say that is so absurd, isn't it? To just say that, even though they said that, John said that. It's so absurd. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. Hey, Donna Burns, great to see you. I just seen Decoder channel. He was on my feed. You got to watch him, Ageless Beauty. You should watch him. You'll like him. Lauren said, did Lauren say he's not going to work, or did Lauren said he won't work? I think she said he won't work, and she had all this pressure on her. Very curious. He says that pregnant mothers who have negative experiences are part of the cause of autism. From my experience, most with autism don't like chaos. Absolutely. Yeah. My son was the same, except when it came to music. The fact that the photo on Google is of Grayson and Lauren and not John is hilarious. I think he scrubbed a little too hard. I don't know, but I can tell you this. I dislike the zipper, the quarter zip, black stretchy, white stretchy shirt. He wears it a lot, right? It's almost like he was wearing the black one all the time. And Lauren was like, oh my God, I can't stand it. Wearing the same shirt all the time. Let me get you a different one. And all they had was that dingy, white. It looks terrible. I mean, my opinion, it looks terrible. But why is he wearing the same clothes? Isn't that? Yeah, and he zips it. It's like if I buttoned my shirt. Look, if I button my shirt all the way, So if I'm sitting here, come on, shirt. And my shirt is really big because I've recently lost a lot of weight. So yeah. How comfortable do I look? How comfortable do I look? It's kind of weird, isn't it? I even feel a little strange. Let me button these up. Maybe he's losing weight and has a turkey neck. I know that problem too. I don't think you're meant to zip it to the top unless you're very cold. Woodman, maybe Lauren is freezing him out. Yeah, look how weird that is. Isn't that strange? I don't even know how anybody could stand that. Like, it would make me feel so weird. Maybe he's on Ozempic like everyone else. The whole world is on some kind of peptide. I will admit that I have that same shirt that John is wearing in the photo. Yeah, well, just regular old plaid. And notice he doesn't have it like buttoned all the way up here like this one. Why do you think he started zipping it all the way up to the top? I can't stand it. That is such a strange look. Oh, you look very pure. I do look Puritan, Mystic. I got news too. I ain't Puritan. Ooh. Gotta shake it out. Ooh, that's a terrible feeling. When J left L with G, maybe the gals were going to the apartment. I don't know. Do you want to know let me tell my truth, Marty. I'll tell you my truth. I don't think it ever happened. I don't think it's true. And because I don't believe that he would do that. I think it's unrealistic that if you have this perfectly normal, healthy wife, and one day you wake up and she's saying she doesn't want to live anymore, that she's, suicidal, you're going to say, okay, well, Grayson, look after her. Don't let her get to the knives, please. Is that how you're going to react? No, you're going to be very worried and very concerned about someone who previously was normal and now they're suicidal. And if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you're going to go to the hospital or go to a doctor, right? Because you're going to know how to behave. You're going to know what you have to do. So, no, I don't think it happened. I think all of that was manipulation. They were simply manipulating people not to believe the truth when the truth started coming out. That's what I think happened. Who lost 50 pounds? I missed that. Oh, I didn't see who lost 50 pounds. Lolo lost 50 pounds since October. Wow. So have you been exercising, or you doing like the protein, or what? How'd you do it? Well, Mabel, right? Yeah, we're communicating, Mabel. Yeah. I was especially licensed about this discussion on autism because I've had extensive training as an educator, and he is causing people to become alarmed. Yeah, exactly what I said, reader. The direction of this conversation was so irresponsible. And it will hurt people, right? There'll be people listening that have kids with these diagnoses, and their kids are perfectly healthy, right? I am firmly convinced autism should not be looked at as a disability. It's only a disability when we try to take that person that is on the spectrum and make them conform to our very uncomfortable educational system, which was designed to educate a lot of people with the least amount of work, right? That's the truth. People that are on the spectrum, if they are put into a program like a Montessori school, something that is really more like free learning or child-centered learning, they thrive. They thrive based on what their gifts are, what their interests are. But when we try to make them go and sit in a classroom, neat little desks in a row, stay in the chair for hours, at a time, that's when it looks like a disability. But Montessori, something like that, they thrive. They do great. It's no trouble. So I am firmly convinced that autism is about a type of cognitive processing, that it is a neurological processing difference. And it doesn't have to be disabling. We just have to recognize what kind of things people that process information that way, what kind of things work, what kind of things are calming and grounding, and what kind of things are agitating, and limit that, right? So, yeah, that's don't get me started. We'll be on the soapbox for hours if we get started on that. I have a theory he could be agoraphobic. He has some issues. I mean, I've asked that question. Does he ever go out, right? I cut my portion sizes way down and eat a lot healthier. A lot of chicken, fish, salads, and any other green leafy. Well, Lolo, you're awesome. Congratulations. That is an incredible amount of weight. And I'm sure that you're like all of your blood work and everything is probably perfect. So good job. That's amazing. So many of us undiagnosed or diagnosed late, not at 12, but at 45. Absolutely, Kalisa Katz. So I worked with a program that was specifically college students on the spectrum. And I did a lot of, well, I won't say a lot, but quite a bit of evaluations for people that were late teens, early 20s that were really struggling with college. And yet we had good IQ scores that showed that they should be thriving. So I would do the evaluation to see, neurologically, if they were processing information like someone on the spectrum might. And then we would get them into the college program that at the Office of Students for Disabilities, they had a designated program for those people on the spectrum. And once they got started, they just would thrive, just flourish. I had one girl that had been diagnosed later, like 21 or 22. And she was one of those that we were able to roll over into that particular program. And she just had someone that would meet her at the bus, walk with her to class, wait outside, and then walk to the next class. That was all she needed to be grounded. Whenever she would try to do it by herself, she would get overwhelmed and just stay on the bus and ride the bus all day. So, we just need to be respectful of their difference in how they process information and provide an alternative education plan. That's the best way to handle it. And that's what you have to do, Lolo. It's just you've got to come up with something that's sustainable, right? Something that matches your lifestyle and the way you celebrate and all that. And then it doesn't feel like you're, denying yourself. I hate the word disability too, ageless. Yep. It is so cool, Kalisa Katz, to see it in action. Amazing. This was so I was employed by the medical school. So I was working with patients. I worked with some of the medical students too. They would come in and like shadow some of our therapy sessions and whatnot. So I was working with the medical school, and the medical school was attached to the college. And that was how we all kind of got routed through that specialized autism program. And I'm so glad I had that experience, because it was amazing to watch them flourish and see how well they were doing. I know some things just cannot be fixed, like paralysis, but people are so courageous and fight like hell. And people are not single factor people. We're very complicated. We have lots of different, we have a lot of different challenges, but we also have a lot of different types of strengths. And for people that have parents and providers that care enough to figure out what are the strengths and not get distracted by what are the weaknesses, those people do a lot better. So it's all about strength, people. It's all about what we can do, right? It's all about what our strengths are, what our hobbies are, what our interests are. Those things are a hell of a lot more important than what I can't do. Like, I would be a terrible ballerina. Fact, I would be a horrible ballerina. But, you know, I'm very good at other things. So why should I get down about not being a good ballerina? I've had a lot of struggles and blame myself for it. Now knowing and understanding my diagnosis all makes sense. Well said, Kalisa. If there's a diagnosis such as agoraphobia that prevents someone from working, can they get disability payments? Sure. Yep, sure can. Okay, we have been doing this for 3 hours. Can y'all believe it? Can you believe this has been 3 hours? I need to get up and walk around. Okay. So thank you guys for being here. I am so appreciative. We'll do more of it tomorrow. We'll pick up where we left off. I think it's probably going to take 4 days, maybe 5 days to get through this whole video. So we'll do some more tomorrow. And look, you guys, we are looking at, can you define dysgraphia? Dysgraphia is a neurological disconnect for movement of the hand, for small motor movement. That we usually see dysgraphia demonstrated mostly like with writing, right? So they know what they want to say, but they can't get the hand, the muscles, and the neurons to do it properly. So we give them assistive language devices to communicate. Sometimes they can type, sometimes they can use pictures. So we work around, once we figure our way around that fine motor neurological issue, then they can make really good grades, and it's not an IQ problem. I'm going back to the beginning of this stream. I got here late. Well, thank you, Kathy Shields. I appreciate that. If there's anybody here, I'm going to do the YouTube thing and say, ask, please hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate that. That helps with the algorithm. If you want to hit the little subscribe button, that would be great too. Then you will know when I put the next video up. All righty. So we are going to go ahead and end this because my feet are killing me. I got to get up and walk. Man or woman was not made to just sit for 3 hours. I got to get up and move. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Woke up at dawn with the pelicans in flight. Coffee brewing.
You know what else? I have something else to say. Please check your weather. I just looked and they have really upgraded this massive ice storm. Please do not wait to go get the required bread and milk and toilet paper, obviously. Okay. No, you guys, please take care. Please make sure that you've got long underwear. Please make sure you got extra blankets at your house. What will you do if you lose access to water, if you lose access to heat? Today and tomorrow, those are the days to prepare. Don't get caught with your pants down, people.
Early light. Waves whisper secrets to my open heart. The life around this water gets me off to a great start. Paris wild, squawking loud in the old palm tree. Dolphin smiles, brighter than the Texas sun on me. We chase simple dreams, nothing fancy or grand. Just honest days in this promised land. God gives rainbow horizons to those in this misconceptions woven, no false starts. It goes like a front porch swaying in the ocean breeze, watching the sunset fade away with pink and bluey. Teach the young ones right from wrong with care. Hold them close when the world's unfair. In this Gulf Coast life, we find our way, building memories that never stray. Oh, rainbow horizons after the rain, diamonds dancing on the waves back again. Honest living in pursuit of peace, family ties and the happiness we see. Love for God and country running deep in our veins. Through the storms and the trials, we break those chains. Good living brings the blessings we see. Rainbow horizons calling to me. When the night falls quiet and stars shine bright, I thank the Lord for this humble light, for the flag that waves and the grace from above, filling our hearts with endless love. No riches compare